Hampton told talkSPORT what this win means to the squad.
It doesn't matter what gets thrown at us, we'll come out on top. And yeah, today being able to lift that trophy is, I don't know, it's a real reward for all the determination, hard work, and just the grit that we've shown throughout this tournament to keep ourselves going when everything's been thrown against us.
Meanwhile, Lucy Bronze revealed after the game that she actually played the entire tournament with a fractured tibia. Just as well, her government middle name is Tough. Yep, Lucy Tough Bronze. Serena Viegman had nothing but praise for her resilience.
Of course, we tried to manage that. But when you play on the 20 minutes, you're not managing it, aren't you? Are you? So, no, yeah, I told you, Lucy Bronze is just, her mentality is like, I think the whole team has an incredible mentality, but she has a crazy mentality. It's unbelievable.
And Luke Littler becomes the youngest ever Triple Crown winner after taking the World Match Play title. The teen sensation outgunned James Wade 18-13. He also shattered more records with 64 180s, the most ever in the tournament. For more on these stories, head to talksport.com.
Good morning, you're listening to Ade Oladipo, Simon Jordan and Martin O'Neill on talkSPORT. So the Lionesses have great history by winning the Women's Euros again. How inspirational, though, will this triumph be for future generations? And is England now the hotbed for women's football? We will discuss. Meanwhile, Morgan Gibbs-White signs a new record contract to Nottingham Forest. Strange situation at one. How have they reached this conclusion? And what does it leave for Tottenham Hotspur? They thought they had their man. Plus, could Luis Diaz's departure allow Liverpool to move for Alexander Isak, the transfer saga of the summer? Are Newcastle Saudi owners inadvertently funding their rivals? And we're going to bring the latest regarding Morecambe potentially being kicked out of the National League. This is Ade Oladipo, Simon Jordan and Martin O'Neill on talkSPORT. Remember, get in touch. Phone lines are open as always, 03717 2233. Before you can give us a text as well, 810 89. Be nice and I'll read out some of the best stuff. Morning, gents.
I'm really in a good mood because Brazil got your name right rather than calling you Ade Oladipo or whatever it was.
I was waiting for you to say that, yeah. Yeah, he did actually. And he came in and he shook my hand and I felt like he had a sense of achievement that he said Ade correctly. I mean, it's only 3 letters, but, you know, each to their own. Could be Ade. Indeed. Could be worse, be worse. Martin, how are you?
I'm fine, Ade. You okay?
Not bad, not bad. Oasis? Yeah, are you over it? Are you okay? I mean, you were there?
Well, did you go?
Of course he went.
I went Saturday night. Did you?
No, I got tickets for everybody but myself. No, I got tickets. And the interesting thing for me was the phenomenon I had was that Michelle went with one of her best friends. We didn't. Our nanny was away for the weekend, so I had my son. Yeah. So rather than listen to the drugs don't work and go let it out, I was listening to La 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 from the Smurfs. I took my 5-year-old to see the Smurfs. Strange world that we live in, Mr. O'Neill.
How good was it? Good?
Yeah, but terrific. Absolutely terrific. Yeah. It's a bit like a karaoke evening when everybody knows the songs. They haven't gone 2 lines into them until everybody's singing them. And Richard Ashcroft on beforehand as well was on for about 45 minutes.
Richard Ashcroft opening up is incredible.
Yeah, brilliant. He was absolutely fantastic. And he set the scene. Not that Oasis need anybody to set the scene for them, but yeah, it was a brilliant, brilliant evening. No question about it.
Incredible. Brilliant evening as well for England's women's team. Obviously defeating Spain on penalty. Serena Viegman getting it done. Again, Chloe Kelly, I think the hero again, although off the bench, which I don't know if it's good management, luck, fortune, but Serena Viegman gets it done again, doesn't she?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. It's you need a little bit of luck somewhere along the way, and I think England got it at different stages during the tournament, but even so, they've gone and they've won it. They've won it. And Viegman has been fantastic. Absolutely. Strange enough, I watched the first half in a little restaurant cum bar, not too far from where I live. And then the second half, I raced out at half time to get the second half. It was only about 15 minutes away from my house. And it was interesting, and I was listening to talkSPORT's half time. And I have to say, she, from the resident pundits, being Viegman, was getting a lot of stick.
Yeah.
You know, for decisions that James wasn't fit, you know, she had to come off. And it's interesting. And then she goes and wins the tournament, and everything is vindicated. So she's absolutely right.
You'll notice that Martin has a sensitivity factor to all pundits that criticise managers.
Oh, is that what it is, Martin?
Well,
didn't she deserve the critique? I mean, she
won the tournament.
What?
She won.
That's right.
Yeah, that's all you know.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
She won the tournament, and it's an interesting one. Here was the point I thought that they might think about. Well, some of them were saying about 5 or 6 players hadn't got their game time. They were sitting on the bench and hadn't been used, hadn't got their game time because they had really great seasons. But my point was, this was not the opening game against France. This was the final, of which England were in.
Yeah.
And at half time, even though they were being outplayed in terms of possession, they're still well in the game. And these are the point. So I do have an issue with that there, because
right
this is the whole point. Viegman has let me talk about James' situation. I'm sure that she had a look at it. James is a great player.
Not injured.
Hold on, great players can win the game. She would have spoken to the physiotherapist. She would have spoken to the medical team. She would have spoken to the lady herself and said, "Listen, are you all right?" And then she'll have a thought in her head: can she last a certain length of time? Anybody can pick up the injury, but it was it's the Monday morning quarterback syndrome. It is really. She should never have started the game. She shouldn't have done this. She shouldn't have done that. I'm sorry. The manager has to make these decisions, and she made it, and she's come up big. And that's the great thing. She's come up big.
I think the narrative was set by the idea that they didn't use Chloe Kelly and Michelle Manniang the way that people thought they should. And I'm with him to some extent. It always fascinates me. It's one thing creating content for media broadcasts. It's another thing offering up opinions as if they're facts. None of these guys that offer opinions have ever walked in a manager's shoes, know what it's like to be a manager. There's a few exceptions. He's a manager, so he can talk to it more articulately than most people. Well, I listen to people. I remember listening to Robbie Savage years ago, with due respect to Robbie, making observations about Pep Guardiola, and I'm thinking, pack it in. I mean, I know he's got a big job now, Robbie, but the fact of the matter is, get a hold of yourselves. There's a balancing act between having a constructive opinion and a bit of objective observations and filling content, and literally going after managers that have forgotten more than you'll ever know. And I find it sometimes a bit strange.
Yeah, it is back-to-back tournaments for Serena Viegman as well now. Obviously got England to the final of the World Cup as well. So
and one with the Netherlands as well too.
And one with the Netherlands, as you say, back in 2019.
It's a fantastic record.
Yeah, it is
really is fantastic.
I mean, they did ride their luck, but as he will tell you, there's component parts, like people say, the harder you work, the luckier you become, right? The fact of the matter is the Italians must be biting themselves off at the wrist because they should have had that job done. The Swedes the same, but they didn't. And the winners are England. I mean, obviously some of those penalties were pretty shocking. Qualifiers passes rather than penalties. But the fact of the matter is, you win the game, you win the game.
Yeah, Chloe Kelly, the story of this tournament, I guess, not just the fact that she scored the winning penalty, but coming off the bench as well. What's interesting, and we're going to hear from her agent now, Michael Jarman. This is a Chloe Kelly that might not have been playing football last year. Let's hear from Michael Jarman and what brought Kelly back to football.
Without going into the personal issues of it, she never wanted to leave Man City. The whole point of it was that she was happy to stay at the club, but that her position had become untenable. And so she needed a way out. And with the Euros fast approaching, not even sitting on the bench in some instances, but basically just not playing any football for the next 4 to 5 months, especially with Serena saying that she needs minutes, was for her a situation that she couldn't. She had to push, and she had to push now to give herself the best opportunity to go out and perform.
That's Michael Jarman there, the agent of Chloe Kelly, someone that you know very well.
I spoke to Michael because there were challenges for Chloe. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I don't think she was having a happy time at Manchester City, and there was an opportunity to go to Man United, and I think that was stopped. And we had a chat about what she should and shouldn't do. play is what she should do, and that's what she did. She went out on loan and got herself into the European Championships. And I watched her during the various games during the tournament. I mean, I have to say, I have not watched inordinate amounts of women's football over the years because I get a bit tired of being shrieked at about how much of a responsibility it is for men's game to patronise the women's game. But notwithstanding, I've watched this tournament, and she's been a shining light in terms of the way that she looks as a footballer. With respect, she can hit a ball like a footballer at times.
She's good. No.
She
very
can dribble past players, and she's got a yard of pace, and she takes people on, and she changes games. She definitely changes games. Now, I know there's an argument to start her. No problem. Find a space for her in the side. But at the end of it all, if she is actually happy to think, this is the role I want, I can do. I'm comfortable doing it. I'm not going to cause a ruckus here by saying I should be starting in the side. She has changed games. She has. Almost immediately as well, too, getting into
the other
matches.
girl as well, when Charlotte comes on. I mean, I also think that it's an interesting evolution in the women's game where the idea that they're very happy with what they've got. They're very happy with the manner in which they play. Now, polar opposite would be the men's game, where if you're sat there with not being played and the nation's crying for you to be on, what would be seeing from the little islands in their own right of the men's football team that I should be playing, I should be starting, I'm unhappy with this and I'm unhappy with that. It'll change, I suspect. The more money comes into the game, the more successful they become, the more difficult they might become to manage. But right now, the women's game, as much as it might not be the division I want to make in the conversation, puts the men's game at international level to a little bit of shame, doesn't it?
It does. The Spanish press, by the way, are not happy with Chloe Kelly. They've come out and said she's out of order for celebrating the way she did in front of the Spanish fans.
I lived in Spain, and I've been in Spain when they've won European Championships and other competitions, and they are the worst winners.
She did go right to them, though. She went straight to them.
So what? So what? Get on with it. The Spanish are the worst when it comes to winning something. Their moniker is the land of envy, and let's be clear, they aren't gracious winners. So we'll have our wins where we take them, and they can get on with our celebrations.
All right, let's hear from the manager, Serena Viegman, who spoke about the chaotic tournament. You said it. Maybe Italy should have knocked them out. Sweden maybe should have knocked them out as well, but they didn't. This is what Serena Viegman had to say after the game.
I must admit that I always think this is the most chaotic and ridiculous tournament we have played. And every time we could come back, because in quarterfinal, semi-final, now in the final we came behind. But this, of course, we have players that have talent. And the togetherness of this team is really, really incredible. But also the belief that we can come back and that the players say we can win by any means. And we just never, ever give up. And today, too, of course, we had moments that we really had to fight to keep the ball out of our own net.
Serena Viegman there speaking to the press after winning another major tournament with England. Does she stay on? I mean, there was conversations pre-tournament about her leaving. And maybe some people have even saying going into the men's game.
Well,
Does she stay on with England?
She's got a contract of 2027, and indications from what I understand is that she'll be honouring her contract. And there was debates about if they won the tournament, they didn't win the tournament, would she stay, would she not? She's got a World Cup to win.
Yeah.
That's evaded her.
Yeah.
So, with England, so she's got a World Cup to go and win, and the USA will be in that. And we know that the USA are very forceful in the women's game. So I would imagine that she stays. Yeah.
What does this mean for the growth of female football? Obviously, look, it's been discussed sort of at length before, but again, now this is back-to-back tournaments. There are superstars emerging. Chloe Kelly.
At what level? Domestic or international?
Domestically.
Well,
in terms of the growth of the WSL.
That's for the commercial sponsors to start stepping up and paying more money, because the thing about the women's football is there's not enough money going into it, and there's complaints about where the money goes. But that's on the commercial broadcasters. The BBC, virtue signaling the way to everything, put some more money into women's football, pay more for the rights.
Yeah. If you believe it, back it.
Well, exactly. And also, the fixtures and the domestic fixtures, they need bigger attendances. I mean, I see the atmosphere. I saw the kids and the environments and the families that are there, and the arguments that are being raised about women's football now being able to have alcohol in the stands because it's a different dynamic, and they're making that particular claim and opportunity. We'll see how it spikes the domestic leagues and how their attendances are, because you've got the one end of the spectrum, which is Arsenal and Chelsea and their levels, and then you get further down the pyramid and
it drops off drastically, doesn't it?
Dramatically.
Yeah.
And that's the question, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's been helped as well too by the Champions League. I think that was quite strong as well too, and Arsenal's fight back as well too. So, but I agree with Simon. Domestically, if you're looking outside the big 2 or 3 sides in the competition, you have to be looking at the stadiums that they're playing in, the crowds that are coming to the game. I think all of that there will definitely improve, and it can only improve really with England's success.
Do the clubs of those sides, the ones that are struggling, that maybe aren't doing the numbers, need to invest a bit more in their female side of the game?
Well, that's an
or
argument.
no, because they don't bring the money in.
Well, that's
What's
an
the
argument.
argument?
The argument that can rage is what should the clubs do and how they should do it. I think they subsidise tickets. I think there's an argument about where they play at times, but what do you want to do? You want to play in a massive stadium that you don't fill with no atmosphere, or in a smaller stadium that you can fill. I think it's incumbent upon these so-called broadcasters that will tell us what they support, and they're all about the DEI initiatives. Okay, well, come on then. Let's say you put some more money into the game, because I get quite irritated when I listen to some of the pundits like Karen Carney come up with some of their nonsense about what the game should be doing. Oh, the game was taken away from the women in the 70s, 80s, is the responsibility of the men. Well, you can have the 70s and 80s back. Those years were full of hooligans and no money. Right? The reality of it is that the women's game is a massive opportunity, and the big thing that I felt was when I was around a lot of investor committees over the last couple of years looking at football, they were all talking about buying women's football teams, separating them from the men's team and giving them an opportunity to be successful. The challenge for that now is that Chelsea have already rinsed all the value out by creating this opportunity to sell a women's team for 200 million quid to subsidise their PSR on the men's side. Look, I think there was huge growth opportunities in the women's game. There's still lots of need for investment in quality, because I do think that the quality is not quite where it needs to be, but it is on the move, and I think it's a great thing. And you see all of these families, all of these kids, and the atmosphere that's created around women's football, and I think there's a lot of positives to it.
Yeah, it's definitely growing rapidly. Well done to Serena Viegman and the England women's team. All right, you're listening to Oladipo, Jordan and O'Neill on talkSPORT with Selco Builders Warehouse. It's where the trade go next. We're going to be turning our attention to Arsenal, who finally have got their number 9. Coming to me. Happy birthday, Spencer. Oh, when was he 50?
Oh, a while
Spencer
ago.
Oliver.
A while ago.
Yeah.
I got him a little
Looks a
gift.
bit older, doesn't he, though?
I got him a syrup.
Yeah. Ade Oladipo in for Jim White alongside Simon Jordan and Martin O'Neill. All right, we teased it just before the break. Arsenal finally getting their hands on a number 9. They've completed the signing of Victor Gyökeres for a deal worth up to £64 million, 73 million euros on a 5-year contract. He comes having absolutely dominated the Portuguese league. 97 goals in 102 games. Bear in mind, I think 6 or 7 of those goals were in the Champions League as well. So for those that are saying he only scores in Weeks League, he doesn't. He scores in the Champions League as well. Martin, I'll come to you on this one. they've got their man. This is it, right? They've been desperate for a number 9. Arsenal fans have been crying out for a number 9. There is no excuse anymore then. This is it, right? This was the missing piece of the puzzle for Arsenal.
No, there shouldn't be now. This is it. Yeah, this is exactly what they've been looking for. And they've got a number of players in at the football club, spent a lot of money, and now this is it. No excuses this time.
Yeah. I guess the question is, I said it there, right? 97 goals in 102 games.
Yeah, it's remarkable.
But the asterisk is it is in the Portuguese league, and we've seen strikers come over. Darwin Núñez scored bucket loads, and he didn't really come and light up the ball.
I think you can compare and contrast. You can do all of those particular things. He scored goals.
Yeah.
He scored goals in the league, and it looks as if he's improved from his time in the Championship. And Arsenal bought him because he has scored a lot of goals. This is the point. And whatever you say about the Portuguese league, it might not be the Premier League, but it's still you've got some decent players playing in it, and so it's all now. It's a big one for them because he's come in there. He's wearing the number 14 shirt as well too. Not that doesn't really matter if Thierry Henry wore it or not, but he's coming in now. A lot of expectation on top of him, and it's up to him to deliver, and it's up to Arsenal to deliver as well.
He's almost got to deliver straight away, isn't he?
Well, first and foremost, the money side of things is when you look at players that are being bought and the amount of money they're being bought for, I hate to hear myself say it's not a huge amount of money. And then the second side of the thing is...
That's not a huge amount of money.
60 million quid for a centre forward. There was
today's market.
No, I agree.
No,
I'm
60 million quid is as rare. Centre forwards are as rare as rocking horse, right?
Yeah.
They are a very difficult breed to get. The second thing is will he be the panacea? I don't know, because Arsenal play a certain way, and one of the things that might change is that Arsenal might... Now, we talk about Arsenal's frailties last year and the loss of certain strikers, and once upon a time I used to call Havertz a tax write-off because I couldn't work out exactly what he was. Right? But the fact of the matter is Arsenal scored 82 goals with Havertz in the side during a calendar year about a year ago. Now, they play a certain way, and they might lose something by playing a different way. So it's not a given that they're just going to march to a better outcome. It's going to remove some of the barriers to entry around the observations about why hasn't he bought a centre forward, and also maybe bring up his shelf life. I'm talking about Arteta. Yeah. Because you go by Zubimendi, you go by Gyökeres, that potentially are two solutions to problems that you might have had, with the departing of the strangely conflicted party right now, and all that goes with that. And you've got a situation now with people suggesting there's very few excuses. Arteta won't have as many reasons to explain why Arsenal don't win anything next year if they don't win anything. But I don't think it's going to be a gimme that all of a sudden Arsenal, that play a certain way, that use forwards in a certain respect, all of a sudden go more direct with a centre forward. Let's see what their wingers do, see how many good balls they put in, see what kind of player he is. Is he an 18-yard box merchant, Martin?
Well, he's a strong player, very, very strong indeed, and he looks as if he's got stronger. But it's a wee bit in terms of Manchester City. Manchester City had gone and sweeping all before them. Then they take on a centre forward, Allen, which I thought absolutely would have taken them because you can play in a number of ways. Now, I suppose I was probably expecting them to go a wee bit longer at times, but actually he seemed as if he was being starved out of the game. I don't actually believe that, but that's the general view, that he was starved.
That's the way it looks, yeah.
It's the way it looks. But you would have Haaland all day long. And to me, it was never a risk because he scored goals. He's very, very strong. He's powerful as well. So,
do you think he's the missing piece? I mean, the teams that you played, when you played at Forest, it was a beautiful team. Was it all about the goals that Woodcock or Birtles or Wiv scored, or was it about the composition of a team that enabled them to be in a position where they scored those goals?
I think it's about the composition of the side, absolutely. Yeah. And will Arsenal be able to create chances? Of course they are, but they're expecting him to be on the end of most of these things. That's the point. But can he play outside it? It looks as if, when he picks it up at times and he runs, it looks as if he's got a fair bit of physical presence. Now, it's getting back to the point, what else is around at this minute? You're taking him, I agree with Simon, I don't think that 65 million, if that's the case, is an awful lot of money. There's players who have cost a lot more who have not delivered in the Premier League. So it's not too bad. But they did need somebody who has actually scored some goals and scored them in the last couple of seasons. In the last couple of seasons, pretty regularly. Yeah. Now, forget about what he did at Brighton and what he did elsewhere, Swansea and things like this here. That's in the past. He's 27 years of age now. His career's now in front of him with a really, really talented team.
Be interesting to see. I mean, he will be full of beans and full of confidence because ultimately, to have scored the amount of goals that he's scored, footballers have to believe in themselves for a start. Centre forwards perhaps even more so, and alongside goalkeepers. But the reality of it is that he knows where the back of the net. He'll go into that side expecting to score goals, which is half the battle. Yeah. Now, if he doesn't score goals from the outset, and Arsenal don't hit the ground running as people expect them to, we'll see how broad his shoulders are. But there was no backward about coming forward. He was leaving that football club and making clear to those that he worked for that he was going. Yeah. So he backs himself and got tickets on himself. So it'll be interesting to see if he delivers outcomes, and it'll be, I think, good for the Premier League.
What's interesting about this is Ade, obviously former sporting director at Arsenal, looked at him as a second-tier striker. So maybe didn't rate him as much as the new sporting director Berta has come in. So obviously there's this committee now, isn't it? Decides what players come in.
That's a judgment.
Who makes the judgment? Who makes the final judgment?
Well, that's a very, very good point at this minute, Adam, because I that's a really good point, because I assume there's some sort of committee meeting now that takes place way back years ago.
But wouldn't it be a style of play issue as well? The committee would be around a series of things, and let me fly this past you. The money that they're buying the player for, the wages of the player. But surely the style of play, the manager will be right in the middle of this conversation. The style of play. If he doesn't want a big up front centre forward, then they wouldn't be buying one from, would they?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. But it's getting back to the point. Edu had a judgment on the player. He may or may not, but he may still be proved right. You never know. But it's someone else has stepped in, and that's all right. If the manager who will have some say in proceedings thinks, yeah, listen here, I'm going with what you say, we'll go with this here. That's fine.
Did you like the signing? Did you like the signing of Havertz as a centre forward? Did you like that signing?
I thought I at the time I thought it was really misplaced.
Yeah.
I couldn't see it really working, and for quite some considerable time it wasn't. Yeah. It wasn't working. Then he found a bit of confidence. He scored a late goal down at Brentford. I happened to be at the game as well too, and it's funny, just a goal, just giving you a bit of confidence, and in fact, I think towards the end they actually missed him a little bit.
Yeah, so what happens with Havertz now then?
Well, Havertz will feel himself. He can play in a number of positions. He won't. He can drop back in.
Jack of all trades.
Well, I think we all think round here that we didn't think that he was actually an out and out centre forward. May still not even be. But okay, can he play? Can he play further back? Absolutely, he can, and he'll have confidence about himself as well. Thinking, I'll get back in here again, no problem.
Yeah, he's gone a bit physically bigger as well. It's interesting though. Madueke's come to the club. Obviously, Madueke's come.
Yeah,
he's going to play on the left potentially. Saka on the right. It's almost as though they decided we need to whip those balls in. Yeah, we're going to play a different style of football now, so of getting those balls in quickly.
And it's only from what I've seen, and I don't know. Madueke looks as if he is actually more comfortable playing in Saka's position.
Yeah,
I think he is actually one of those players who likes to take people on, shimmy outside, and come inside and have a shot at left foot. Well, he's not going to take Saka's position, and absolutely not.
It's going to give Arsenal options and ability to change, and it'll also give them a better opportunity to assault Europe even better, even though they went to the semi-finals of the European Cup last year. Because they've got to move forward. Irrespective of getting to a European Cup semi-final, that they'll be able to hide behind as progress. They regressed in the league last year. They didn't progress in the league, and one would have expected that, given that there was a situation of Man City's decline, Liverpool came out of the ether, and Liverpool were great, but they were steady, Liverpool. They weren't phenomenal in terms of what the rock and roll stuff that Jurgen Klopp produced. So Arsenal, in my view, snatched defeat from the jaws of victory with potential opportunity. And that might have been because they didn't delve into the transfer market in January, but I think they were already labouring by that time anyway. So they need a season of progression, and not, we had a successful European campaign. At the end of the season, you won bugger all. And that really is something they probably have to address, unless the message from the boardroom is, you keep on sticking us in the top four, we're as happy as sandboys.
Okay, so with Norgard, Zubimendi, Gyökeres, Madueke, is enough to win the league? Should Arsenal win the league? Should there be favourites to win it?
Oh, they should go very, very close. Yeah, but Liverpool have also spent some money as well too, so they'll try and stay strong. And there's this argument of why change things. Tragically, they've lost a player, and they need replacements in the side. Some of the players, Nuno's not really come up to it. Although you always feel as if he's just a step away from doing it. We've been saying that for ages. It looks as if the other lad is going to go to Bayern Munich. So they need a few players in. Absolutely, no. This is the best time to strengthen, as Brian Clough would always say. Yes, young man, best time to strengthen is when you're winning.
And that's what Liverpool are doing. All right, up next, our chief football correspondent Alex Crook's going to join us to discuss the latest transfer news, and there's quite a bit of it as well.
England are going to kick off their Euro celebrations back in the UK with a reception at Downing Street after beating Spain in a nail-biting penalty shootout. Chloe Kelly, the hero for the Lionesses in 2022, reprised her role for the big moments and buried the decisive penalty to seal the 3-1 result. talkSPORT's Adrian Durham tells us, although it was a chaotic route to victory, this squad should never be overlooked.
I mean, when you look back, could you say they were the best team? Well, they've won the tournament, and that's all that matters.
Yep.
There might have been other teams played better. This England side had a depth in the squad, a character and a spirit that none of the others could match, and it's seen them through to victory in the end.
The Lionesses are then set for an open-top bus parade celebration in central London tomorrow, followed by a ceremony outside Buckingham Palace. Meanwhile, Lucy Bronze revealed after the game that she actually played the entire tournament with a fractured tibia. Just as well, her government middle name is Tough. Yep, Lucy Tough Bronze. Serena Viegman had nothing but praise for her resilience.
Lucy Bronze is just, her mentality is like, I think the whole team has an incredible mentality, but she has a crazy mentality. It's unbelievable.
And Luke Littler becomes the youngest ever Triple Crown winner after taking the World Match Play title. For more on these stories, head to talksport.com.
This is White and Jordan, Ade Oladipo in for Jim White alongside Martin O'Neill and Simon Jordan. Just gone 10:30. We are about to talk some transfers, so this could take a long time because there's loads going on in the transfer window. Let's bring in our chief football correspondent, Alex Crook. Alexander Isak situation. What's the latest with it? A lot of Newcastle fans would have seen the Luis Diaz to Bayern Munich and feel like this might open the door for Liverpool to make a transfer record bid for the Newcastle striker. What's the latest? Is he there? Crook, are you there? He's going to come on. He'll be on in a minute.
It's about as interesting as transfer gossip gets.
It is massive, though, isn't it? This transfer window for Liverpool. I mean, if they do secure the services, I already thought that Liverpool have had a fantastic window, the likes of Wirtz coming and Frimpong and Kirkes. But if they do secure Alexander Isak, you almost feel like you could wrap the transfer league title and send it to them already. It looks so impressive.
Well, you just mentioned earlier there that Arsenal should win the title or should go close.
I'm just putting pressure on Arsenal fans.
Right, okay, yeah. That would be a big signing of it if they make it. There's a long way to go yet. Yeah. Newcastle will be desperately unhappy about that if it goes through. Isak looks as if he's making noises, some waves anyway, some noises and stuff like this. Yeah, that doesn't help greatly, I must admit. I think Eddie Howe was saying that he was hopeful. Sorry, he was confident about him staying at the football club, but one's never sure.
I always love people that have a London accent that support Liverpool. Eddie, I
can put the Scouse accent on.
I was interested. I mean, I do feel sorry for Newcastle to some extent, but I also feel there's a degree of irony about the irritation that's coming out of Isak leaving potentially to Liverpool, and the idea that it's PSR based. It's not PSR based. He wants to go to a bigger club, and the irony of it is saying that it's not fair to us. But it was okay when you took Anthony Gordon from Everton. When Everton were in financial trouble. You forget that one, do you? Oh, okay, right. Look, I mean, will he go? I think there's a possibility it's more about the money that he's getting at Newcastle. And they're suggesting that, that perhaps Paul Mitchell would turn around and said that he was entitled to it or shouldn't be given a pay rise. There's an argument to say he shouldn't be given a pay rise. He's got a 3-year contract. Nobody broke his arm off at the wrist and made him sign a contract, did they? He signed a contract for whatever money he's on. There was another argument saying if that's the market value for the best striker in the country, and there's an argument that he is.
That's the biggest argument, isn't it?
Sure, but if you've signed a deal, and if he broke his leg, would Newcastle say, well, you broke your leg, we haven't got to pay you that money because you can't play? They wouldn't, would they? They'd say, ultimately, this is the reality of the contract that we signed, we'll stick to our side of things.
Yeah, this is an owner of a football club.
I just realised, what's happening.
But I agree with you. I absolutely agree. You can only go, it seems to go in the player's direction all the time. He signs a 5-year deal, he's 2 years into it, he's playing splendidly. Of course the agent's going to be in on top of it. It's either listen, I'm going to go to a better club, or I'm going to ask for more money. Now, depending on which one you want to get. Maybe he's going to get both. Maybe he gets to a big club, not that Newcastle aren't a big club, they are. But Liverpool over the last 20 odd years have proven themselves in European football. This is the big point. So he gets this chance. Listen, I look at it from a Newcastle viewpoint. Simon's absolutely right. I mean, the rules change for it looks as if the superior club always seems to beat the inferior one in many aspects. But overall, it is one of those points where you think, listen, if we lose this player, the season's almost upon us. Well, where are we going to get a player?
Have you experienced a player that's done what Isak's doing, which is clearly decided I don't want to play for the club, and they've done a U-turn? I.e. a Morgan Gibbs-White, we're going to see.
Yes,
is there a chance?
Believe it or not,
Isak still plays for Newcastle?
Way back some years ago, I had my captain, this one I was at Aston Villa, Gareth Barry, wanting to leave the football club. He wanted to go because he wanted to go to Liverpool at the time, and I obviously was disappointed because I wanted him to stay. It was really important if that was the case, but we put a price on his head at the time. If Liverpool were going to meet that price, that was fine. They didn't meet that price. They didn't. They were a couple of £1 million short. The chairman of the football club, the owner, Mr. Lerner, stood steadfast and said, no, this is it. This is the price. Now, Gareth wasn't too happy about it at the end of it all. Hemmed and hard about things. But Liverpool decided that was it. They weren't going to go any further. What was disappointing to Gareth was about 2 weeks later, I think we were looking for 10 million at the time and they went to 8. And then 2 weeks later, when Liverpool said they didn't have it around, they spent 20 million on Robbie Keane. So Gareth was really irked by that. Eventually, he came back, sorted his head out, no problem, stayed the next year, played brilliantly for us, absolutely brilliantly, might even have been our best player that particular year, and then got his move to Manchester City, where he ended up having great success.
Let's bring Crookie in very quickly, Simon. Our chief football correspondent, Crookie, is here now. Crookie, thank you. There you go. There he is. Bring us up to speed with Alexander Isak. What is the latest in this situation? I feel like every single day I turn on X, as it's called now, that there's a new development. Where are we now on it?
Well, it's certainly becoming the saga of the summer. Obviously, Liverpool have sold Luis Diaz, or agreed a deal to sell Luis Diaz to Bayern Munich for around about £65.5 million. It actually takes the money they've raked in transfer fees to £190 million. I think the net spend this summer is now only £115 million, because I think a lot of Newcastle fans are asking from a PSR perspective, well, how can they afford to sign Ugo Ekitike for big money and Isak as well? He is still a dream target for Liverpool. I think they would want encouragement from Newcastle that they're ready to accept a British record bid before they actually make that interest formal. I've spoken before with Simon about the respect at the top of the two football clubs, with Richard Hughes, the Liverpool sporting director, and Eddie Howe, the Newcastle manager, having a really close relationship. So I think they'll go about this respectfully, but it's pretty clear, isn't it, that Isak is pushing for a move. You don't leave your star player out of a lucrative pre-season tour when it's as much about endorsements and appearances as it is about actually getting on the pitch, because he's got a minor thigh issue. I think when Eddie Howe comes out and says there's no chance that Isak links up in Singapore, even at a later date, I think he knows that he's got a fight in his hand to keep their star striker.
You mentioned the timelines there. Obviously, look, as it stands right now, 28th of July, if Liverpool are going to make a move, when does the bid come in? Like, what are we realistically thinking here? Are they waiting to sell Darwin Núñez? Or is it a case of once this Luis Diaz deal is completely done, then Liverpool can almost show their cards?
Well, I think they're trying to offload Darwin Núñez. I was told this morning, interest in him from AC Milan and Juventus, but we know that Italian clubs don't pay the type of money that Liverpool would probably want. I think their preference is still for Darwin Núñez to end up in Saudi Arabia, and therefore they can get a bigger transfer fee. How keen he is on that move, I'm not sure. I think his preference would be to stay in Europe. But if you sell Diaz for £65.5 million and you get another £50 million, which I think is the asking price for Núñez, then that's going to go quite a long way to the £130 million British record bid that is being talked about with regards to Alexander Isak. I share Simon's sympathy with Eddie Howe, because I think they've tried this summer to bring in some big names and nothing seems to be falling for them. Even Brentford digging their heels in now about Joao and telling him that he can't lead the club. That's another saga, because we're told at talkSPORT that he doesn't want to come back for training, so Brentford have got that situation to deal with. And I think Eddie Howe, for his part, would have liked more players through the door before now, and certainly wouldn't want to be in this situation where we're 3 weeks away from the start of the Premier League season. His star striker wants out. They've lost Callum Wilson as well, so they don't really have a recognised senior number 9. It's going to be a lot of pressure on Will Asula come the start of the season if they don't get someone in. They are trying to address that. They're in talks with Benjamin Šeško to try and agree personal terms before making an offer to Leipzig. Nicholas Jackson is a player they admire, but Chelsea want big money for him. So a lot of work to be done at Newcastle.
Well, this is the thing with Isak, isn't it? Obviously, look, money will dictate what he does next, but if he's looking at what Newcastle are doing in terms of business, they couldn't get the Mberma deal over the line. They struggled trying to sign Gahey. They're struggling trying to sign Johan Vissa. He's probably looking at it thinking, you're not getting any players. I'm looking around the change room. Where are the star players?
There's also a school of thought which is he can look and do whatever he pleases. He can also do as he's bloody told and buckle up and be told to do as he's told. And it depends how strong the football club wants to be. I mean, Liverpool can sit there. I'd like to see at times these miscreants over the PFA start having a few things to say about players and their attitude when they decide they're not going to turn up for training or they're not going to turn in for contractual obligations because they don't like the club they're now playing for, and the LMA and with managers and their conduct at times. But we'll leave Mr. O'Neill to deal with that, given he's the chairman of the LMA now. Look, I think if Liverpool want to buy this player, then they should get on with trying to buy him, and Newcastle have got to be very strong in what they want. And I don't really care what Alexander Isak wants right now. I care if I'm the owner of the football club and the manager of the football club, my job is to make sure that I'm okay. So if you want to come buy my player, come buy him or bugger off, right? Don't use all the forces of the fact that you're a football club that's achieved something last year, your second Premier League title in 32 years, but you've achieved it now in the last 5 years. Your club's re-emerged as a force in English football again, dominating leagues. But don't use that as an opportunity just to unseat the player. Make a bid, or I'm going to make it really, really hard for you to buy this player. Yeah. And I'm going to take the consequence of it, and the player will have to accept the principles of what I'm saying. And it can be done. Lesser clubs, I know. I did it with Andrew Johnson when he was an England player. Palace got relegated. He was told he wasn't going to Everton. End of discussion. You're not going, and you and your ghastly little agent, Leon Angel, can sling your hook. You're not going.
It'll be interesting to see how this one plays out. You mentioned Johan Vissa there, Newcastle trying to also replace Isak now already. What's going on there? Because again, the papers will tell you that he's decided he doesn't want to train. Is that true? It doesn't seem to sort of abide with his character, if I'm honest with you. But what's going on with Vissa to Newcastle?
Well, the information we got over the weekend is that he feels certain promises have been broken to him because Brentford are blocking this move. Obviously, they've got a rookie manager in Keith Andrews, who Martin knows well. They've already lost Brian and Bumo. They can't really afford to lose their second best source of goals from last season. So I understand why Brentford are digging their heels in, but he is actively trying to push for this move. As you mentioned there, we're told he isn't going to come back for training. He's told Brentford he doesn't want to play for them again, but for their part, they've told Newcastle he isn't for sale. So it will be fascinating to see how this one ends up. I do wonder if Evangelos Marinakis, love him or hate him, what he's done with Morgan Gibbs-White, if he's almost empowered these smaller clubs to stand up to the bigger teams in the Premier League and not be bullied into selling players against their wishes.
Yeah, the player power versus manager power or owner power is going to be an interesting one. Joao Felix, a man that always seems to be finding his way to good clubs regardless of how he plays every single season. Looks like he could be on his way to Saudi.
Yeah, Al Nassr have agreed a deal with Chelsea. I find it incredible, and I tweeted about this yesterday when it comes to Joao Felix. Obviously burst onto the scene in a blaze of glory at Benfica, and we all thought, wow, this kid could be an absolute superstar. it hasn't happened for him. But if you tot up the combined transfer fees that he's commanded, it is quite staggering for a player, for me, who is all style and no substance, really. I mean, he's part of the George Mendes stables, that may explain it, but this looks a good deal for Chelsea in terms of helping them with PSR.
It is strange, though, with what's going on with Chelsea basically able to sell a player to Saudi. And if you're Newcastle fans, you're probably thinking, one second, a PFI owned Al Nassr funding your rivals. It almost makes no sense here, this little conundrum.
Well, you don't think they all do business together with one another. You don't think Marinakis was buying players from Lyon to help John Textor out? Look at the marketplace. Have a little look around at who's doing what, when, and how, and why, and work out who benefits as a result of it. And you know, to some extent, there's been an element of that going on for some time. Look who owns a significant portion of Chelsea. Look at some of the funding of Chelsea. You can look at Egbali, and you can look at Todd Bodie, and then look at the money behind it and where the money came from, because some of their private equity money was Middle Eastern money. So around and around it goes. It's called the circularity of money. That's how it works.
That's what fans should know. Crookie, appreciate you coming on. Thank you very much. Our chief football correspondent there, Alex Crook, giving us the latest when it comes to transfers. All right, you're listening to Oladipo, Jordan and O'Neill on talkSPORT with Selco Builders Warehouse. Check out this month's deals at selcobw.com. We touched on it there, but next we're going to talk about, I think, one of the strangest interviews I've ever seen from a player signing or agreeing a new deal. Morgan Gibbs-White and his pitch-side interview with Marinakis. That's to come. Good morning, listen to White and Jordan. Ade Oladipo in for Jim White alongside Martin O'Neill and Simon Jordan. All right, we teased it before the break. I think the big news over the weekend, and look, loads of stuff happened over the weekend, but the big news is that Morgan Gibbs-White stays as a Nottingham Forest player for now. He did a pitch-side interview with the Nottingham Forest owner, Marinakis, which I thought was just viral. Honestly, it was incredible content. If you haven't seen it, please do. Let's listen to said interview, or a portion of it. This is what Morgan Gibbs-White had to say about renewing his contract at Nottingham Forest.
I'm delighted, so thank you to Mr. Marinakis for believing in me. I feel like we've been on a roller coaster of a journey, but I've felt the love instantly from the very first moment I stepped into the doors. We've had difficult times, but we've had a lot of highs, and last year was really, really exciting. We got to showcase what we're about and what we're trying to build as a team. and I feel like Mr. Marinakis is the base of that. So I was delighted to sign.
Look, ultimately, as much as people have made a bit of a joke out of that interview, Nottingham Forest fans will be happy because their star man stays. And there was a feeling that this Nottingham Forest side was starting to be broken up with Elanga going and other players being removed. You've worked alongside Marinakis, so you know the man very well. He is a character.
Yeah, he is. So why he was actually standing there when they were interviewing the player, I don't know, but...
Just to make sure he said everything correct.
I think that's probably absolutely true. But you don't argue with Marinakis. You just decide that, have a conversation with him, and then he's going to say he's right, and that will be it. So Gibbs White stays after, what seemed something rather prolonged going on. Tottenham Hotspur had seen this clause, or heard about the clause, or was told about the clause,
which happens.
Which of course it happens in the game. It's not new in football, absolutely not. But I think that there's an element of losing a couple of players. Elanga, as Simon mentioned off air here, he leaves the football club. You don't really want to be where would Nottingham Forest go with two of the very, very finest players leaving the football club? But Marinakis has won, and Gibbs White stays. It seems just an ounce of it was suggested rather reluctantly there, but even so, he is. That'll still be good news for Forest, and he's a very popular player. And the reason he's very popular is because he's played very well at the club. Done really well.
Maybe more than just an ounce, I think. What was interesting at the end of that interview, which we didn't show, is Marinakis said, at the end of the day, we always win.
Sure, and good for him for saying it. I actually quite like the idea of him stood there, because there's many a time I've sat with players or with managers and agreed something, and then watched them go into a press conference, and I said, "That's not what I said for you to say." I remember Steve Bruce saying, I'm going to stay at Palace, and someone asked him, "Are you happy at Palace?" Well, I'm the Crystal Palace manager until someone tells me something different. That's not what we discussed, Brucey. We discussed that you were. Anyway, the fact that he stood there and intimidated the hell out of the player, I think actually controlled the narrative. Look, I would imagine, Marinakis is a strong character, like him or loathe him, and some of the things I think about him I'm quite impressed with him. Other things I'm not so impressed with him about. I think bringing Clattenburg in and somebody's behaviour, I think is a little uncouth at times, and the Clattenburg experiment about, the idea that referees were all picking on Nottingham Forest, I think was slightly ludicrous. But he means what he says, and he's a strong character. And I would suspect that splattergunning everybody about the idea that he was going to take people left, right and centre over to Morgan Gibbs White, whether it was the agent, whether people had said things they shouldn't say, David Manasseh, or whether it was other things that were going on, whether Spurs had done something they shouldn't have done. I would imagine there's a very strong motivation inside Nottingham Forest that if Elanga went, Gibbs White wasn't gonna, and it might have been the other way around. It might have been a Gibbs White. They might have been prepared to let Gibbs White go, but the Elanga deal came in the way, and a whole raft of other complications come out as a result of that, which changed the direction of travel. And Marinakis, I believe, is one of those sort of characters that if he feels personally slighted, forget about it.
Yeah, but if the clause has been met, doesn't it show a lack of ambition on Morgan Gibbs White's sort of own self not to go to? Look, Nottingham Forest are a massive club, but Tottenham are playing in the Champions League. If you're Morgan Gibbs White.
But why should it always be a lack of ambition if somebody doesn't move to a football club?
No, move to a bigger club right now.
We have this sort of argument all the time. It's been down the years. Somebody stays at a football club. He lacks ambition. Somebody moves to another football club outside his contract. He's absolutely. So it's one or the other. From that little interview, and I'm only gleaning some my own thoughts from it there. It looks as if Gibbs White had a hand tied behind his back when he was doing the interview. But it's fine. Marinakis has got his way, and let's be fair, regardless of what I think or he thinks of me and I think of him, doesn't matter. Without Marinakis, Nottingham Forest would not be in this position.
Absolutely.
They would not be in this position. As simple as that. There, he's put money into the football club
and driven
the football club. So that's where that's exactly what's happened. And you do know the Forest fans had a great season last year. Disappointment towards the end, not getting into the proper European competitions. And but even so, still, that there would be massive disappointment around the City ground if they lost both of those players.
This isn't about lack of ambition as well. You've got to factor in the nuance. There's a full court press on his player. The fact that he went after people and said, hang on a second, there's 3 people that knew about this clause in his contract, and one of them wasn't Spurs. Right? So by the way, it's either you, your agent, or me. And it ain't me, so it's one of you two guys, right? So you're going to get some of this. So I would imagine that Gibbs White got his life told to him a little bit, and so did his agent.
And an increase in wages.
And an increase in wages. And an increase in wages. And we'll see. I mean, you will see if Nottingham Forest win everything. We'll see if they get in the Europa League. We'll see if he's complied with all the obligations upon him, which he didn't, in terms of putting it in a blind trust. And the laughable idea that he can put it in a blind trust, because who funds Nottingham Forest? Who funds Nottingham Forest? If Marinakis puts all his shares in a blind trust, who's going to write this? Does anyone actually believe that Marinakis in his shares in a blind trust means he doesn't run Nottingham Forest?
Yeah. No, I mean, I think we saw from that interview he runs Nottingham Forest. What does it mean for release clauses then? Because Spurs have hit a release clause and they haven't got the player.
Depends how you operate.
Well, absolutely. It's exactly right.
How so?
Yeah.
You can't, first of all, you're bound by confidentiality. And a release clause now is nothing but an opportunity for that vile species, the agent, to get in between and start gossiping about
So there's no point in having a release clause then?
Well, but there is, if you conduct yourself properly. And ultimately, if you do things properly. And at the same time, release clauses are not just, it's a release clause, there's caveats attached to them. There's payment terms, there's the club that's buying them, because there's conditions attached to which kind of club buys you. If a legacy club buys you, a Champions League winning side club or a Premier League side wins you, there's conditions upon it that can actually raise the fee. There's also about how you get paid. You don't get paid when they feel like it, you get paid bang on the nail. So it's not just a case of pass, go and collect 200 quid. There are still some caveats, right?
Confidentiality in football, do me a favour.
I know, but at least make them work hard. Make them work hard.
Do me a favour.
What does it mean for Spurs, Martin? Obviously, look, new manager.
That'll be disappointing. That'll be really disappointing.
They had Morgan Gibbs White.
Yeah, I bet they thought they had him, and I thought that they could circumvent all those particular problems that might have existed, and obviously it didn't happen. And therefore they'll have to go searching again. Yeah, it's that would be a blow to the new manager coming in.
What it means also is an interesting thing, and Martin's right, because I agree with him. The two biggest commodities in football are gossip and money, right? They're the two biggest commodities. The thing is now you've got new types of owners. And these type of owners, this is the reason why multi-club ownership exists, because they'll challenge the legality of the UEFAs of the world saying you can't own more than one club. That's why multi-club ownership exists, because when you're dealing with the Sheikh Mansours of the world or whoever else it is who wants to have more than one club, they've got more money than the establishment. So they're going to go, hang on a second, your legal rules don't stand up. APT doesn't stand up. Associated Party transactions don't stand up. That's why Man City drove a bus through it. So the reasons why confidentiality and people like Marinakis can actually change the outcome, as opposed to accept the football orthodoxies, because they go, no, I'm not having it, and I've got the ability and the money and the wherewithal to turn your lights out. So have a go, son. That's the change of ownership. That's what football's now become. Bigger, stronger, more influential people, nation states that no longer decide that the silly little rules that football once had apply to them.
Yeah, they had it going, it didn't work out. It's worked out for Nottingham Forest though. Up next, we're going to be discussing the news that Lucas Pakata is set to be cleared of spot fixing allegations against him, but will he start the season at West Ham?
England are going to kick off their Euro celebrations back in the UK with a reception at Down. Fighting penalty shootout. Chloe Kelly, the hero for the Lionesses in 2022, reprised her role for the big moments and buried the decisive penalty to seal the 3-1 result. talkSPORT's Adrian Durham tells us, although it was a chaotic route to victory, this squad should never be overlooked.
I mean, when you look back, could you say they were the best team? Well, they've won the tournament, and that's all that matters.
Yep.
There might have been other teams played better. This England side had a depth in the squad, a character and a spirit that none of the others could match, and it's seen them through to victory in the end.
The Lionesses are then set for an open-top bus parade celebration in central London tomorrow, followed by a ceremony outside Buckingham Palace. One player who was considered a real pillar of strength for the squad was Hannah Hampton. As well as saving 2 pens, she was actually born with an eye condition, which means she has no depth perception, and she was told she could never play professional sport. Hampton told talkSPORT what this win means to the squad.
It doesn't matter what gets thrown at us, we'll come out on top, and today being able to lift that trophy is, I don't know, it's a real reward for all the determination, hard work and just the grit that we've shown throughout this tournament to keep ourselves going when everything's been thrown against us.
Meanwhile, Lucy Bronze revealed after the game that she actually played the entire tournament with a fractured tibia. Tough, yep, Lucy Tough Bronze.
Of course, we try to manage that. But when you play on a 20 minutes, you're not managing it, aren't you? Are you? So no, yeah. I told. I think the whole team has an incredible mentality, but she has a crazy mentality. It's unbelievable.
And Luke Littler becomes the youngest ever Triple Crown winner after taking the World Match Play title. The teen sensation outgunned James Wade 18-13. He also shattered more records with 64 180s, the most ever in the tournament. For more on these stories, head to talksport.com.
Good morning, you're listening to Oladipo and Jordan. Sounds quite nice, that does. Bit of a ring to it. Ade Oladipo in for Jim White alongside Martin O'Neill and Simon Jordan. A reminder, we are streaming live on YouTube and Smart TV. For all the info on how to watch the show, just head to talksport.com/watch. All right, Coldplay back at Wembley this summer, and we've got a huge VIP prize up for grabs for one lucky listener. We're giving you the chance to win 6 tickets and a private box for you and your mates, August 22nd, with full hospitality. Plus, we're chucking in 10 grand spending money, completely tax-free as well. Here's how to enter. Remember, it's 18 plus UK, excluding Northern Ireland. For a chance to win, just text the word WIN to 83338 by the 4th of August. That's WIN to 83338 by the 4th of August, 11 p.m, and you're in. It's that simple. Text costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. You must have the bill payer's permission, or you can post your name and number to Coldplay Competition, PO Box 3190, Colchester, CO2 8GP, to arrive by 5 p.m. on the 7th of August. TalkSport limited promotion. It's run on TalkSport, Talk and Virgin Radio UK stations. Full terms and conditions at talksport.com. Martin, you can't apply for it. It's not for you, Martin.
What, Coldplay?
Yeah, you can't apply for it. We can get you a couple of tickets if you need to be.
Oh, that's very nice if you think you're.
Because I know you're a big Coldplay fan as well. Coldplay fan as well, Simon?
What?
Go on.
Yeah, Coldplay have been brilliant over
Fantastic
a 20-year
Coldplay.
period. Yeah. And
Nah,
no.
my feet to
Okay,
sleep.
here we go.
What?
My feet to sleep.
Yeah,
That should have asked him.
they're not my favourite band, but they're very good.
They're very, very good. All right, let's talk about a very, very good player who could look. He's had a cloud over his head for a couple of years, and that's Lucas Pakata, who's set to be cleared of spot-fixing allegations, which would be a sensational turnaround for the West Ham midfielder. The 27-year-old was facing the threat of a lengthy ban. Some people say lifetime ban that could have ended his career. He was charged by the FA with deliberately getting himself booked in 4 separate Premier League matches. Sources with knowledge of the cases that the players understood to have been cleared by an independent regulatory commission, with the decision to be announced very, very soon. Simon, what do you make of it? This has been ongoing now for nearly 2 seasons.
Well, I'm surprised, not because I had a pre-ordained perspective of his guilt or not, but I was surprised given that you would bring this kind of charge with the kind of ramifications of it without very, very comprehensive reasons for doing it. And so I think it's a challenge for the authorities. It might be a precursor to how many times the Premier League are going to lose things, and maybe the big one coming up, Man City, will also see that happen as well. The interesting thing for me will be if you have been accused of something as defining as this, that could jeopardise your career, certainly has scuppered huge financial transactions for you for going to bigger clubs than West Ham. The next thing you'll do once you're being cleared, I imagine, will sue. And you might find something in the fact that I doubt he will sue.
Why would he not sue?
Well,
if, as you say, it's cost him a potential move.
So you'll have to ask yourself why he doesn't sue.
Okay.
And why you don't sue is because perhaps when you get into the details of suing somebody for something, more disclosure has to be brought forward, and then things become a little bit more convoluted, and the burden of proof or the burden of obligation of exonerating yourself might be slightly more difficult. But in the fact that he has, if we are to believe these reports, and quite frankly why they're in the public domain right now as a result of, I would imagine, some form of confidentiality being required of these sort of things, and it's the court's job or the arbitration panel's job in this instance to determine or to detail the verdict. That doesn't seem to be the case. It seems to be briefed into the media now. It'll be interesting to see what he does next and what West Ham do with him next, and where it goes and what challenges await him as a result of this. I don't know if it's going to be an exoneration, but it's certainly going to be somebody who's not being found guilty of the things he's been charged with.
Yeah, we wait for the full findings, which will be released this week. It's going to be interesting to see the wording of said findings, Martin. If you're West Ham, and we'll focus on the club, then the player again, but if you are, and again, Man City were linked with this player for 90 million. You've lost out on 60 million quid.
Yeah, that's right. And if it is because of all the allegations against him, that's the reason why they're dropping money. I would, West Ham have a situation to look at in terms of the player. That he is really, if he has been proven innocent here, then obviously compensation. And if he wants to go and fight this case because he has been proven innocent, well and good, do it. Again, a bit like Simon in this sense here. You never know what steps into a court of law, You get some very, very clever people against you, and the other side being able to more disclosure, all of that type of thing. So I don't know where it is. But in terms of where West Ham stand, I think, honestly, it's been a long-running saga. It's not helped the player at all. It's not helped the football club. Maybe if there is a move to go back home again, I for West Ham, regardless of how much you might have lost out or potential for losing, I think you should just say, okay, listen, let's go. You start your career again elsewhere.
Yeah, it's almost like everyone just washes their hands of it and moves away.
Well, it's going to be fascinating to see, because surely they cannot have brought a case of this significance and seriousness against a professional footballer without good reason for doing it. And if they haven't had good reason for doing it, and the allegations are spurious, and the fact that they've got evidence is very lightweight, then you have to start looking at the Premier League's guidance, and there's already questions about Masters, there's already questions about how much money's been spent fighting the Man City case, fighting cases, bringing actions against football clubs left, right and centre. If you brought out, deliberation in my mind, if I'm West Ham and the evidence that was put in front of me was spurious, going after those that made those decisions, and you've got to read between the lines if people don't and why they don't, because if they don't, it means they can't, and if they can't, it means things are not as cut and dried as people being exonerated, sat with somebody rather than the absolute clearing of to have been. I'll make the point again, and I know I'm repeating it. you can't bring these sort of allegations against people without some serious substance.
Yeah.
And we see.
There had to have been, really, because, as Simon said, that's so serious. You're talking about a player's career. You're talking about him stepping out of the game for some time. Mud sticks a little bit somewhere along the way. If I was the player, I'm afraid I would sue. I'd go for it.
That's because you're a litigious swine, aren't you?
Well,
Yeah, I'm not as I am, mate.
So's my mate to the right. Absolutely right. There's about 45 managers will attest to that. Absolutely.
Very true.
It takes you, honestly. I used to read away back in about about 15 years ago. Jordan takes another manager to court
and wins.
Yeah,
wins.
There's so many sliding door moments, though. I mean, David Moyes, when he was manager of West Ham, he mentioned the fact that Pakata make his way to West Ham as part of the deal. Look how Cole Palmer's turned out. So I feel like everyone's lost here.
But you could also make the case that David Moyes plays a brand of football. It doesn't matter who he put in the middle of the park. They play a brand of football that eventually people got a bit fed up with.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens with Pakata. I almost feel like move on. And there's not just move on in terms of move on and stay in the Premier League. I think that's why this Flamengo things come up. I think he just wants out, doesn't he, as well? Back to Brazil, forget about it, we move on.
Maybe. Would you feel that way if you knew you were innocent? This is riding that particular horse for the purpose of this conversation. You knew you were innocent. You're playing in the biggest league in world football with the most money. Would you want to go back to somewhere that you'd left?
I've been proved innocent, therefore I'm going to say, listen, I wouldn't let it lie. I wouldn't let it lie.
I'd want to play in a big league, which is the Premier League.
Yeah, but mentally, though, you look at him, and you would have watched him closely in the last season, and he's not the player he was previous seasons. That mentally, this must have affected him big time.
Of course, of course it is.
And even more so, if he's not found guilty, even more so, you'd want to say, well, I'll tell you what, you've had your pound of flesh and got nowhere with it. I'm going to have mine now.
Yeah.
And I guess it's a louder noise if he is found guilty, and as you say, he doesn't sue.
If he's found not guilty,
and he doesn't sue.
Well, you would think so.
Then it's a louder noise. Yeah, it's a louder noise.
Let's see how they spin it out. Let's see how they spin out their desire not to sue.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. But again, we will get full disclosure on this Pakata situation this week. But the news that is coming out right now is understood that Pakata has been cleared by an independent regulatory commission with a decision to be announced soon. I can't wait to hear what the Premier League have to say about this, and West Ham's response to it I think is going to be fascinating as well. The wording around it's going to be interesting.
Sitting there thinking how much money's missed out on.
Interesting indeed. All right, you're listening to Oladipo Jordan and O'Neill on talkSPORT with Selco Builders Warehouse. It's where the trade go. Next, we're going to be looking back on an incredible victory, and it was for the British and Irish Lions, and we're going to speak to England's record caps holder Ben Youngs.
ahead of this one. One of the most iconic stadiums in the world.
There's more push and shove going on. Bit of biff.
Bring back the biff.
Wallabies from 40 metres. Tom Wright's going to go in. 2 tries in the matter of minutes. Listen to the MCG. They're definitely behind their Wallabies this evening. To James Lowe. Tyburn outside him. Tyburn for the corner. Gets there. 2-point game. 20 minutes to play. Hugo Keenan to the left-hand side. To win it! Hugo Keenan scores the try! 50 seconds to go. The British and Irish Lions have won their first series in 12 years.
You heard it there, dramatic as well, wasn't it? Fantastic. It's always dramatic as well when it happens in the last few minutes, and it did. Hugo Keenan scoring that dramatic last try, although the Aussies did try to say, well, 1 second, and maybe it shouldn't have stood, but it did stand. And with that, the British and Irish Lions win the series in dramatic style. They could win it 3-0 as well. I do wonder if the players really care to win this. Once it's done, it's done. Do they care?
What, stamping on the Aussies?
Yeah, but they've already probably all had drinks. They've probably gone out. They probably.
You don't think that the British and Irish Lions want to step on the Aussies because you don't think the Aussies would be dancing all over them if it was the other way around? And listen to David Campese and whoever else.
Yeah.
Well, where were you going with that?
I was like, well, it's 2-0. The series is done.
Yeah.
Surely they're already out on the, you know what?
No,
having some fun.
Not at all. If seriously, if you're Farrell, you'll want to win the 3.
Yeah.
You want to win it. You want to have this team go down in history as the Lions having a clean sweep. Absolutely.
All right, let's ask a man that will know this very, very well. British and Irish Lions former scrum half Ben Youngs joins us. Ben, you heard what I said. I completely got shut down there. I said that's it now, isn't it? It was great, but no, 3-0's got to be done.
How you doing, gents? Yeah, look, they've won the series. Of course they have. They'd have enjoyed Saturday night, I'm sure, maybe even Sunday. But then the work starts again. I think nothing says more about sort of a sports person's mentality that the series is won, but now can you chase history? You know, like, can you find something this week where, okay, you've won the series, but they want more than that. They've got a chance to do something historic in terms of a whitewash against Australia. You know, beating Australia, for anyone is always great. It's a great rivalry between any nations. So the Lions to do this, you go there once every 12 years, you got an opportunity to whitewash them. Like that, this is a real test of, you know, your mentality to chase greatness when the series is already wrapped up.
Would he rotate? Would he give players that have potentially not had an opportunity, or will he stay with what's been winning him the first 2 tests?
So it's a tough one, isn't it, Simon? I think, you know, the way I look at it is there's going to be some banged up bodies given the intensity that was played on Saturday, you know. But I think it's not going to be necessarily of, you know, everyone gets a crack at playing in a test match. It's what's the best team this weekend to go and get the job done. You know, Andy Farrell, of course, played for Rugby League against Australia for years, and given the rivalry there and the Aussies and everything like that, he will be chasing a 3-0 victory here. And then you could see people like Jack Morgan, who came on the weekend, was terrific. Tom Curry, who's played the first 2 games, the way he plays the game, like his body's got to be in tatters. So there may be some rotation, but I think whoever you rotate in is to add and to make sure that they go and get the job done, rather than, you know, I wouldn't say it's like, here's an opportunity because we wrapped up the series and, you know, have a go. It's just not the mentality of that squad or Andy Farrell or should it be anyone's, in my opinion.
It was a fascinating final 5 minutes, wasn't it? I mean, ebbed and flowed, and Hugo Keenan's try, the Aussies not happy about it, went to the TMO, they decided it was fine. Do the Aussies have any argument at all? I mean, were they hard done by here? Would we be upset? I say we as sort of Brits be upset if it was on the other foot.
There's nothing better than hearing the Aussies moan. It's a cracking clean out. It was legal. It was absolutely fine. They're clutching at straws. What it was unbelievable composure from the Lions to find the opportunity and to execute. Now, you know, the player, the defending player for Australia, goes to try and steal the ball. He's in a really strong position. Jack Morgan, Ellis Genge hit him at the same time, as low as can be, right on top of the shoulders, and get rid of him. Now, you know, they're always going to look at things, and I think that's the beauty of rugby with the TMO. You know, I know the VAR we have in football, but in rugby, the TMO and where they can go back to and all this has always been a great addition. And if he cleared it, the ref cleared it, it was all good. So I think I would compliment the Lions in terms of that mentality at the end. As I say about the third test now and trying to win it and whitewash it, the mentality at the end of that game to build the pressure through phase rather than eke out a penalty. In rugby, you get an opportunity. If you win a penalty, you can kick 3 points. It was, 3 points would have won it for the Lions. You can look for drop goals, but they're exploiting them. They kept the ball in hand. They're being really patient with it. I'd sort of compare it to football, maybe where the clock's ticking down and you're lumping long balls into the box rather than letting the ball do the work, be really patient with it. And I thought the Lions basically did that rather than going for the miracle sort of long ball straight away. They built pressure through ball in hand, through nice little passes. And ultimately the Aussies sort of ran out of numbers in the end. And it was a bit of gold dust from Hugo Keenan. Yes. But it was also the mentality as a group of trying to go out and really attack the win rather than try and, eke out a penalty.
Let's hear from the head coach, Ben, who always seems to be under pressure, and I get it, right? I mean, you are going to be under pressure being the head coach of the Lions. Let's hear from Andy Farrell, who spoke about the special way in which the Lions secured victory.
These lads have dreamed of being a British and Irish Lion all their lives. And to get to the point where we come to the MCG, 90-odd thousand people, with a dramatic finish like that to win the series is what dreams are made of, and no one can deny that for everyone. So we are absolutely delighted that we to be a Lion, and delighted for everyone involved.
He's been vindicated, hasn't he? All these decisions that he made, some people kind of just stuck their nose up to some of the players that he included, Ben, but he has been vindicated. And we didn't hear from the man next to him, but the captain, Mario Itoje, when you look for a leader, he almost just, we don't really see him as much in football anymore, like the captains, as the old school captains, but he's almost like the old school leader, isn't he?
Yeah, look, for me, captains, you either shrink or you grow. When you're given that power, and it's not even a position of power, responsibility. When you're given that position of responsibility, you either see players that thrive in it and grow, or they ultimately, lose form, bring on too much themselves. But for me, Maro has been sensational. He's already a wonderfully, incredibly talented player. We know all that. But the responsibility of captain has almost hyper-focused his accuracy within the game. His discipline has been the best I've ever seen it. His decision-making around when to speak to the referee, when to not, how he deals with all that, how he manages the team. I can't speak highly enough of him. I think that, Andy Farrell picking him as a captain was absolutely the right call. Obviously, he started the England journey as captain at the start of this year, and he's just grown and grown. So, now a Lions winning series captain. And I know from his mentality and some of the guys that are in there, as I say, like they will be chasing the 3-0. They will be chasing a chance to make history.
Martin, you watched it as well, didn't you? I know you were super impressed with the Lions.
I thought they were terrific, absolutely. Probably because there's so many Irish players playing for them.
There's a good few of them.
I tell you, Ben, I got a wee bit. I get a wee bit worried at the time that was it Finn Russell turned inside just underneath the post, and I thought he's going to get nailed here, really nailed. Luckily, he was able to throw the ball back again, and they kept the move going. And that was just my panic moment. I thought that was it. But they were just fantastic, absolutely fantastic. And we're talking about managers being vindicated with decisions. Every decision he's made, he's under the spotlight. There's no question about it. Even bringing his son into who I agree with you, I think is a fantastic player. Really, really, really strong character himself. But the whole series, just going down to the last drive to me has just made it all really worthwhile. I think they'll want to whitewash to the side, and I think the changes that will be made maybe because the boys are absolutely out on their feet. But overall, I can't see wholesale changes for the third game.
Yeah, given the working cohesion, as you say, I think it will be, which bodies, like which guys can go and back up the test match, which guys probably just can't. It'll be that decision. But I tell you what I loved about it most, and I think that when it comes around once every 4 years and there's such big hype around it, you want the games to live up to expectation. And sometimes these games don't. Not always in sport you have these great rivalries or great matches, and sometimes you leave a little bit flat. And maybe that was the perception after the game in Brisbane. But in Melbourne, MCG, given the magnitude and everything that goes with it, I thought rugby as a whole, Australia were, you don't want to be plucky losers, but they chucked the kitchen sink at the Lions and they made for a great test match, and it just lived up to the hype. And it doesn't always happen, but I was so delighted from a rugby point of view that it did. And maybe it captivated a few people too. The season starts in September, but as you say, I think Finn Russell, you weren't the only one. When he got scragged at the end there, I was panicking as well, but he got the offload away. And again, it just showed the calmness under pressure. And it's a unique skill. Not everyone can do it. It's how do you keep your cool in the absolute game that have huge consequences to them. How do you still stay composed? And he was terrific.
It's interesting.
I just apologise for speaking to you as if I know what I'm talking about. I don't.
no, he does. He does.
He was
educated.
You're absolutely fine.
He's lying. He's educated me upstairs.
It's really delightful to hear you actually saying that you agreed. No, I'm agreeing with you.
You're not getting a pat off the back from him, Martin.
No.
You mentioned participation levels there in terms of sort of the growth of the sport. It has come into question over the last few years. Surely people watching that at the MCG, when the players are making their way out, 90,000, even some of the Lions, you can see them look up and look around like, wow. I mean, if you are a young rugby player watching that and you need inspiration to continue the game, surely, Ben, that does it.
You'd hope so, wouldn't you? I mean, what a privileged position, everyone gets to be as professional sports players. And, that sort of highlighted and epitomised it, didn't it? The Lions is the pinnacle for any rugby home nations player to go and represent your four nations and go and do this UCG, 90,000 people. And, when you looked at it almost, and of course yellow, but amazing. And so rugby will always be have the opportunity to grow, and I think game coming up as well. So again, the more that we can keep building British sport, it's very, very important. So I'm all for it, whether it's inspired by what they saw yesterday, whether it's inspired by what they saw on Saturday. It doesn't matter. I think everyone has a role to play as professionals to sort of inspire the next generation to pick up any sort of sport and give it a go.
Well said, Ben. Congratulations. Ben Youngs, their former Lions. Fantastic, wasn't it? Honestly, though, he's right. The sea of red, the amount of people that travel, obviously loads of expats in Australia as well, but the amount of people that have travelled over to support the Lions is incredible. All right, up next, we're going to be getting the latest odds from BetMGM, and we're going to look at an Arsenal player that I know Simon's been speaking highly of as well. How do they handle this Arsenal player? I'm talking about the superstar that could be Max Dellman.
England are going to kick off their Euro celebrations back in the UK with a reception at Downing Street after beating Spain in a nail-biting penalty shootout. Chloe Kelly, the hero for the Lionesses in 2022, reprised her role for the big moments and buried the decisive penalty to seal the 3-1 result. talkSPORT's Adrian Durham tells us, although it was a chaotic route to victory, this squad should never be overlooked.
I mean, when you look back, could you say they were the best team? Well, they've won the tournament, and that's all that matters. England side had a depth in the squad, a character and a spirit that none of the others could match, and it's seen them through to victory in the end.
The Lionesses are then set for an open-top bus parade celebration in central London tomorrow, followed by a ceremony outside Buckingham Palace. Meanwhile, Lucy Bronze revealed after the game that she actually just as well her government middle name is Tough. Yep, Lucy Tough Bronze. Serena Viegman had nothing but praise for her resilience.
Lucy Bronze is just, her mentality is like, I think the whole team has an incredible mentality, but she has a crazy mentality. It's unbelievable.
And Luke Littler becomes the youngest ever Triple Crown winner after taking the World Match Play title. For more on these stories, head to talksport.com.
Good morning, Ade Oladipo in for Jim White alongside Simon Jordan and Martin O'Neill. We're going to talk a bit of boxing later because there is another issue when it comes to performance-enhancing drugs in boxing. There's one every month, to be honest with you. They're not going away. Honestly, Martin, it's a situation. I can't wait to get your take on it, Simon. I know you're very honest with these opinions when it comes to steroids. Worse than some of the recent ones, but that's coming up. For now, though, it's time to catch up with the odds thanks to BetMGM.
It's showtime on talkSPORT with BetMGM. Get ready for the golden era of sports betting. Visit betmgm.co.uk or download the app. 18+gambleaware.org.
I'm delighted to say that we are joined by Matt Gibson from BetMGM to look at today's sporting event and discuss the latest odds. Matt, there were brilliant scenes in Switzerland yesterday for the Lionesses, weren't there?
Yeah, really, really fantastic scenes, as you say. The girls out there seems like they're making history with everything they do. Just to look at the odds. Spain were pre-tournament favourites during the tournament, favourites going into the game. England were 2-1 to lift the trophy before kick-off, having been 4-1 pre-tournament. So, from a bookmaking point of view, certainly the underdog won. But a huge congratulations to Serena Viegman and all the team who were involved. Most notably, Chloe Kelly, superb in the knockout stages, and stepping up to take that penalty was really incredible to see. She's come flying into second favourite for Sports Personality of the Year after last night's event, 6-4, just behind Rory McIlroy, who's top of the market at 5-6. Hannah Hampton, Leah Williamson, all also in the betting for that trophy. 2 Lionesses out of the last 4 have lifted that trophy, so wouldn't be shocked to see another one of that team on the podium in December.
Yeah, she has a unique way of taking penalties, which I'm still very uncomfortable with, but they go in and she scores them. It'll be interesting to see what the odds would be once the World Cup rolls around and you chuck in Brazil and the USA and all the other big hitters into it as well. We spoke to Ben Youngs just now about the Lions in the last section. Half-time, the Lions were struggling. They were, at one stage in the first half, 23-5 down. You must have feared the worst that everyone else did.
23-5 at half time. I think they were beyond even money to get over the line, which we've not really seen. They've always been big odds on to win every game on this tour. But much like the Lionesses, they found a way to get it over the line. There's 90-odd thousand in the MCG. I'd wager that a lot of them were Australia supporters. So they managed to do it in a pretty hostile environment. And again, the history beckons for this group. They're 8 to 25 to complete the 3-0 whitewash in Sydney. The last time the Lions won all Test matches on a tour was 1927 in Argentina. Wow. So although the series is secure, I think there's plenty to play for from a Lions point of view to make that bit in history, and the Aussies certainly won't want to be whitewashed in their own backyard.
Yeah, some history 100 years ago. That's incredible. All right, and the fourth test in the cricket between England and India. Unfortunately, I say that because I can't stand when they play day after day after day, and then it was a draw at Old Trafford.
They don't back the draw with these two sides, and then it ends up being a draw. So a little bit of egg on my face for that one. It was 11-4. It was the biggest price out of three outcomes, and this is England's second draw in 4. Over as captain, but there's still, again, in this series, there's still plenty of needle there. I'm sure you saw the little bit plenty to play for as we go into the fifth test at the Oval, which kicks off on Thursday. England even money to win. The draw, a big price. I won't rule it out like I did last time, 15-4, and India 15-8. They obviously need to win the match to come away from this tour with a draw.
No chance for the draw again. Absolutely no chance. Thank you very much for joining us, Matt. That was a look at the latest odds. All thanks to BetMGM. Remember, visit betmgm.co.uk, or you can download the app. Remember, it's 18+. BeGambleAware.org.
It's showtime on talkSPORT with BetMGM. Keep things golden with responsible play at betmgm.co.uk. 18+. GambleAware.org.
All right, let's talk about a young man that we could be talking about quite a lot in the future. A young 15-year-old called Max Dowman, who came off the bench for Arsenal in the 60th minute. And I mean, there's a clip doing the rounds right now on social media where he just looked fantastic and didn't look like a 15-year-old either. But he went on a mazy run, which culminated in a penalty that Martin Odegaard then scored. The Gunners beat Newcastle 3-2 in Singapore. You've spoken about him before, this young Max Dowman.
I spoke about him about a year ago in play in the Arsenal Academy sides. He's a real talent. There's a real opportunity for this kid to be a really good player. I mean, I'm the one that turned around and said that these are the sort of people that he can be compared to, the people like Jamal. He has that kind of level of ability. But there is still a long way to go, as Martin will attest to more eloquently than I ever can, for a 15-year-old boy to turn into a 20-year-old superstar or 17-year-old superstar. There's lots of things that will go on between then and then. But as a talent, technically, he is a fabulous player. He's got, and they've been raving about him for some time. A lot of people, Rio Ferdinand has done the same thing, raved about him. Real talent there. Real talent.
How do you manage something like this, Martin? You've got a 15-year-old that already Arsenal fans are screaming to be in the squad at the start of next season or this upcoming season, but he's only 15. I mean, I guess that's up to yourself as managers to manage the expectations of a young player like that. Like, I guess, the way David Moyes did with Wayne Rooney to an extent.
Well, I've not seen the player playing at all, but I can generalise from the viewpoint of having handling of Wayne Rooney, or perhaps even Barcelona's handling of Jamal. The answer is that 15 years of age, as Simon mentioned, he's a really great talent, and that's fantastic to have. What do you do with him? Well, you just let him progress, in the sense that you just deal with him. I think that the interesting thing about it is it's about him. It's about what he wants to do, what he can do, and I'm quite sure he's in great company. I think some of those players, those senior players around him, I think the way they brought in some of these younger lads and who have not been found wanting at all in the side, I feel as if the Arsenal, that group of people will help him along. And in time, if Simon is right and you're right in saying he's a wonder talent, then it'll come through. It'll definitely come through at the end. At 15 years of age, played, Jamal ended up playing 100 games for Barcelona before Messi did, you know. So that is extraordinary when you think about it. If you're enough, or whatever the case may be. 15 is very young, but it will. I assume, Simon, the way you're talking about him, he will be knocking in the first team door certainly within 12 to 14 months.
It'll be fascinating to see. I mean, obviously you saw Jude Bellingham come up very early, didn't you? And you saw the guidance that he got from his father and the decisions that they made. And I remember Jim doing an interview with him when he was very young, 16 years of age, playing for Birmingham against Millwall. He spoke to the media at 16, 17 years of age, belied his age. It'll be interesting to see where Darwin is in terms of what they can and can't do with him. I imagine he's on a scholarship contract with a pro contract on the back of it, which will protect their investment.
Yeah.
Interesting to see what his family setup is, what the background is, because those are the things that are really going to shape the way this kid's talent will be then translated into a professional career that meets the talent that he's clearly got at this stage in his development. We've seen lots of players, lots of young players. I had one, John Bostock. You know, Barcelona tried Barcelona trying to buy him off me when he was 15 years of age for £1.5 million. You know, he goes into our first team, plays Neil Warnock plays him against Watford. The world goes crazy, you know, and he started on that. But the thing for John is, at the time I said to him, you know, if you're going to be a footballer, you're going to be a top player, everything will come. Learn your trade here, get some games, and if you want to go play for Spurs and get the money, then you'll do it in time to come. Hey, Harry didn't fancy him. Where's his career gone?
Yeah, you've got to
make the right decisions.
You've got to be careful. Let's hear from Arsenal manager Mikel Arteta about again.
I'm very happy with all the kids. I think they are able to play at that level with 15 years old, in my opinion, because of the environment and the culture that is within the team. And when somebody makes you feel so comfortable, so confident, straight away you can go and do it. At least it gives you the best chance. Then you have to have the qualities that this kid have to actually deliver against an opposition like this. It's a moment to give opportunities, to reward them, and they certainly took the chance today in difficult circumstances against a very big team. But incredible how at 15 years old they can perform at that level.
It's interesting that Arteta's talking about him in these glowing terms. Normally you get managers that just say, okay, we need to kind of just shy away from that. But what we have seen with Arteta in the last couple of seasons, he does give young players chances. Nwaneri, Lewis Skelly, these are now fixtures. Lewis Skelly's a fixture in the England squad.
Absolutely.
So you will get a chance at Arsenal if you're good enough.
That's what we're talking about, the environment that Arsenal seem to have about the young players coming through. They don't seem to be frightened of what's in front of them. And that's great. And as you mentioned, Lewis Skelly, you see that. And I just think if he is this player, then he will come through, given that if he has the attitude, obviously you've just said to me he's quite strong for 15 years of age as well. And to be playing, even though it's a friendly game, a pre-season friendly match, it doesn't really matter. You're playing in someone's first team at 15 years of age. That's extraordinary.
Will the family be knocking on the door and putting pressure on Arsenal to play him? Like, can they have that much power to be saying, my kid should be starting if he's not starting?
Well, before Simon talks about that, if I was the family, I would absolutely not.
But can they?
It depends. They shouldn't be. This is the whole point. Listen, that Arsenal have raised this kid, and they should just be putting their trust into that football club. No question about it.
Challenge. I remember talking to Steve Sidwell, because he was in the academy at Brighton, talking about the biggest challenge that you've got as an academy director or a senior academy person, not the player, is the parents and their expectations. You've got to manage that. If they are in a situation where they're making decisions or noises about where their kid should and shouldn't be playing, the kid's going to have problems.
Yeah, I do wonder for the kid, like, how difficult is it? You play for Arsenal in the pre-season against Newcastle, massive crowd. And then you go back to the under 18s.
That's okay. He's 15. He's not 21 or 22. He's 15 years of age. Hold on. Just steady, mate.
Yeah, the world's at his feet. He's got so many opportunities. Just gets good voices around him. And Arsenal produce the right environments. This is a legacy football club. You know, Arsenal, one of the biggest clubs in English football. He is in the right place.
Yeah, right place, and could be right time as well. All right, you listen to Oladipo, Jordan and O'Neill on talkSPORT with Selco Builders Warehouse. Check out this month's deals at selcobw.com. Next, we're going to be discovering the latest surrounding Morecambe's future. Could they be expelled from the National League? Doomy, gloomy stuff. morning, Ade Oladipo alongside Simon Jordan and Martin O'Neill. All right, we are going to switch gears now and talk. I hate these conversations because I hate hearing about football clubs struggling, but it's just the climate that we live in, unfortunately. I think we've seen it with Bury recently, and we could be seeing it with Morecambe now. As it stands, Morecambe, and this is a statement by the National League, by the way, they say that Morecambe, they have serious concerns surrounding Morecambe and its compliance with the National League rules. The statement also went on to say that they wrote to the current owner, Jason Whittingham, last Thursday and gave him until 12 p.m. today. So we're talking 9 minutes' time to outline the terms that must be met in order for the club to not face possible further sanctions. Those sanctions could be Morecambe being expelled from the National League, could be Morecambe being expelled entirely. Let's welcome in James Wakefield, former Morecambe director. James, where are we right now? I mean, we are hearing investors named Johnny Cato, the Punjab Warriors, who've put it on their website that they are now the owners of Morecambe. What's going on?
It's difficult to say. Thanks for having me on, first of all. The situation at the moment is that, as you said, the National League are quite rightly asking questions of the owner. He's responsible for funding the club. He's responsible for answering the questions and making sure it can meet its obligations. We don't know what the situation is, to be perfectly frank. There was a buyer lined up in the former Punjab Warriors. We hope that there still is. But it seems that they've gone quiet now over the course of the last week since Sam spoke to my former colleague Graham about a week ago on this show. So we honestly don't know what the situation is. We're all extremely concerned because it's not just about the club and what league we're playing in this year. It's about the existence of the club and the community that it's built at the centre of.
I want to focus on Punjab Warriors just because, again, going on their website, I saw them with sort of shirts outside the stadium. And, I mean, to us football fans, every time you see a player hold a shirt, that means the deal's done. It's done and it's already moved on. They pretty much said that the deal is done. Why has it gone quiet with Punjab Warriors? What's happened there?
What they said originally was that the deal had been sanctioned by the EFL, which was correct. So they were having gone through a long process of being assessed as fit and proper. They were announcing the fact that at long last they had got that approval and that therefore they were going to complete the deal. At that point, the owner had been very clear that he was going to complete the deal. There were announcements made by various parties to say that was going to happen, and it was all due to happen imminently. That then didn't happen because the owner just didn't sign his shares across. And then at the last minute, at the beginning of the month, he decided he was going to try to sell to somebody else, having taken large sums from Punjab Warriors. And so really since the beginning of the month, we've been in absolute stasis because the owner refused to sell his shares.
Why has he refused to sell them? Jay, from what you know, why has he refused to sell? Because there'll be Morecambe fans listening to this right now and shaking their head because a lot of people will maybe pointing the fingers at Punjab Warriors and this Johnny Cato figure. Why has Jason decided not to sell his shares?
Only he can answer that. Jason's not spoken to me for quite some time. Probably doesn't want to. But only he can answer why he hasn't sold his shares. People can probably cast assertions, they can make assumptions.
But you must have an opinion.
The bottom line is it's in his gift to sell them and he hasn't.
You must have an opinion, James, as to why he hasn't sold his shares. I know he can answer for himself, we all know that, but he's not. So you must have an opinion as to why he hasn't done the deal with the guys that are purporting to be able to do it.
I think it probably comes down to money. I think he's probably looking for more.
And is that likely? Is it likely? Because he will know in the same way, obviously some of these clowns that have owned football clubs like Steve Dale at Oldham and other people, Bury, that created absolute carnage. And I spent time with these guys and these guys were idiots. But he will know in the same way that the guy at Reading knows that eventually the best thing to do is sell the football club and get out of it rather than allow it to disappear into absolute nothing where it's a sum of diminishing returns. Is there a realistic alternative to these guys?
There's not a realistic alternative that we have any detail at all on.
So what is he? Is he like some character of Batman who just wants to see the world burn? Is that what we're saying here? Because
I don't know, but he obviously doesn't care about anything other than himself. He really genuinely is. The way he's acted over the course of the last few months, and in particular the last few weeks, would indicate that unless it's in his interest, he just doesn't care.
Okay. How imminent is something like administration, and who would do it? Who would put it into administration? Is the club in trouble with HMRC?
So we as a board, when we were the board of directors at the beginning of the month, we announced publicly that we were going to place the club into administration unless the deal was completed within 24 hours.
On what basis? Your fiduciary responsibilities?
fiduciary responsibilities.
But who would the creditors be? And who you're putting into administration is one thing, but who's going to pay for the administration?
So at that point, the club hadn't been able to pay wages because the owner hadn't put the funds in that had been promised. So at that point, we were basically trading with staff and players who had only been paid.
Which administrator would pick it up, James? Because ultimately, the big thing about administration is funding. So it's one thing putting it into administration, it's another thing putting it into liquidation. If you put it into administrator, surely you've got to have somebody that's prepared to fund that to be able to meet the outcome of an administrator.
So at that point, Punjab Warriors were lined up to buy the club. At that point, they made it clear that the funds were ready to buy the club. At that point, they were ready to complete. And that was coming up to 4 weeks ago now, which is ridiculous. And so at that point, we said, well, the only viable route forwards is for the board to put it into administration or the sale to complete.
And squeeze him out,
Yeah. And unfortunately, the owner then tried to sack us the next day, citing wanting to avoid administration. And then within, I think, 48 hours, he conjured up a new name, a new buyer, and he was off trying to do a new deal and effectively ignoring Punjab Warriors. And what's transpired in the really depressing 4 weeks since is that all the staff and the players are sat unpaid. We're now going into another month, another payday, and the owner's not going to be able to pay their wages again. And so, the owner is currently running the club in an insolvent situation without any directors.
James, what happens in the next 3 minutes? Again, the deadline's 12 p.m. today. What happens after 12 p.m?
Well, the National League will probably release a statement at some point. It could be at 12, it could be shortly after. And the National League statement will say what it says. The National League have been very fair, as with the EFL. They've been very supportive, very clear on what the rules are. I've not been involved for the last few weeks because obviously we care deeply about the club, and we're waiting to see what the National League decide. But I don't blame the National League for whatever they decide because they've been really fair.
In terms of your own thoughts on this, are we talking? Again, this is just for Morecambe fans listening in right now, and I know that there are loads doing so. Are we talking extinction? Are we talking just being moved to the league below? What's the outcome of this at 12 p.m?
It really depends on what the National League decide. The outcomes could be that a sale does complete over the course of the coming days. That is looking increasingly unlikely because it feels an awful lot like Punjab Warriors have been driven away by the actions of the owner. It could be that we are suspended. It could be that we are expelled. It could mean a number of things. And so we are literally just trying to find out everything possible and trying to do all we can to save the club.
Who's Johnny Cato? Punjab Warriors I'm fully aware of. Again, I've gone on their website. I know exactly who they are, an sport investment company. Who's this Johnny Cato character?
Absolutely no idea. There's been no direct contact with any other buyers other than Punjab Warriors as far as anybody is aware. There's been no information provided other than a name said by an owner who has proved so unreliable in terms of providing information that anything he says you've got to take with a fistful of salt.
Yeah. James, really appreciate you coming on. Thank you very much. James Wakefield, their former Morecambe director. It's madness, isn't it, if I'm honest with you? But again, this doesn't surprise me. I loved your question as well towards him because, again, it's all well and good saying you're going to put a club into administration. Who credits that? We wait and see.
Interesting to see how good these other guys are because the logical
Punjab Warriors.
Yeah, well, logical place for it is that, with due respect to them, buying a football club, not ideal, but the best place for them to get the best deal was with it being in administration because then the current owner is squeezed out of the way unless he's got debentures over the stadiums and you get the price that you want to pay and the money that you might have put in someone else's pocket goes to the funding of the football club going forward.
Yeah, they're in a strong position. We'll see what happens with that. We're going to keep you up to date with this Morecambe situation. Again, loads of texts coming in about Morecambe. We'll let you know as soon as we do, as soon as we hear from the National League, that is. But at the end of that, the end of another football spectrum, we are going to be looking at the war of words between FIFPro and FIFA. Slightly different this one.
England are going to kick off their Euro celebrations back in the UK with a reception at Downing Street after beating Spain in a nail-biting penalty shootout. Chloe Kelly, the hero for the Lionesses in 2022, reprised her role for the big moments and buried the decisive penalty to seal the 3-1 result. talkSPORT's Adrian Durham tells us, although it was a chaotic route to victory, this squad should never be overlooked.
I mean, when you look back, could you say they were the best team? Well, they've won the tournament, and that's all that matters.
Yep.
There might have been other teams played better. This England side had a depth in the squad, a character and a spirit that none of the others could match, and it's seen them through to victory in the end.
The Lionesses are then set for an open-top bus parade celebration in central London tomorrow, followed by a ceremony outside Buckingham Palace. One player who was considered a real pillar of strength for the squad was Hannah Hampton. As well as saving 2 pens, she was actually born with an eye condition, which means she has no depth perception, and she was told she could never play professional sport. Hampton told talkSPORT what this win means to the squad.
It doesn't matter what gets thrown at us, we'll come out on top, and today being able to lift that trophy is, I don't know, it's a real reward for all the determination, hard work and just the grit that we've shown throughout this tournament to keep ourselves going when everything's been thrown against us.
Meanwhile, Lucy Bronze revealed after the game that she actually played the entire tournament with a fractured tibia. Just as well, her government middle name is Tough. Yep, Lucy Tough Bronze. Serena Viegman had nothing but praise for her resilience.
Of course, we try to manage that. But when you play on 20 minutes, you're not managing it, aren't you? Are you? So, no, yeah, I told you, Lucy Bronze is just, her mentality is like, I think the whole team has an incredible mentality, but she has a crazy mentality. It's unbelievable.
And Luke Littler becomes the youngest ever Triple Crown winner after taking the World Match Play title. The teen sensation outgunned James Wade 18-13. He also shattered more records with 64 180s, the most ever in the tournament. For more on these stories, head to talksport.com.
Good afternoon, just gone 12 o'clock. Ade Oladipo in for Jim White alongside Simon Jordan and Martin O'Neill. We are going to talk Manchester United a bit later. Ruben Amorim is playing down what the season's going to look like for Manchester United fans, basically saying it's going to be another tough season. I think United fans want to hear stuff a bit more positive after a couple of good signings. Sunderland, talking of signings, we are hearing that Sunderland have agreed a fee of €20 million for buying Leverkusen midfielder Granit Xhaka, who's going to sign a 2-year deal. Martin's club you managed. This is big for them, isn't it? And supports. This is big, isn't it? Especially when you look at the average age of a lot of the Sunderland sort of players, quite young. Bringing a player with Granit Xhaka's experience to the club, I mean, that's a sign of intent, no?
Right. Is it going to happen? Because I thought that the
Ten Hag
was trying to block it and say, well, listen here, we're not going to let him go.
We believe it's happening now.
We believe it's happening, is it? Right. Yeah. Well,
do you like it as a signing? Do you like it?
Right. I thought that
here comes the truth.
No, I thought although he did fine at Arsenal, even towards the end. Remember, he fell out with the fans. He did all of that type of stuff, and then
he redeemed himself, didn't he?
Absolutely, and had a really terrific season. The season before last, they're really, really good. So well done him in that aspect. Would it be good for Sunderland to get someone of that experience in? I think so. I think so. Might as well do it. It's not fantastically costly. Is it 20 million?
20 million euros.
20 million euros. And how old is he now at the moment?
32.
Yeah,
32.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a few quid for 32.
I thought it was a lot older than that.
It is for a 32-year-old. Listen, Sunderland needs some players in at the football club. They're great, really terrific football club, but no question about it, they wouldn't be strong enough with the present team that they would have. So any bits of experience, I'm sure, would help.
Might explain why. I mean, I was half expecting Jordan Henderson to pop back up there.
Yeah,
yes,
I'm surprised by it. I'm surprised Jordan's gone Brentford.
Yeah,
instead of going Sunderland, it would have made a lot of sense for him to go Sunderland.
Or maybe, despite his deep-seated love for Sunderland, the economics didn't quite work for him.
Yeah, well, Brentford surely can't pay more than Sunderland, can they?
Well, it may well be. I mean, they're
established Premier League club now.
Established Premier League football club. Just got 70 million quid for the kid going to Man United.
Yeah, in Burma. Yeah, you're correct. Of the three clubs that have come up, Sunderland, Leeds and Burnley, who do you think's best positioned to stay up? Because we are seeing the gap now between the Championship and Premier League just become so big that automatically you think the three teams coming up are going to go down.
Well, talking about who you would like to stay up, I obviously would love Leeds United to stay up for a start because they are a massive football club. Whether they have got the infrastructure, whether they've got the wherewithal to do that there, I just don't know. Sunderland, of course, you want them to stay up, and who cares less about Birmingham? To tell you the truth,
Birmingham definitely cares about Birmingham.
Who cares less about him?
Well, I kind of do.
I do. Listen, I'm Aston Villa through, but so
I do in a way. I mean, I think Alan Pace is a strange one at times, and I think he's gotten away with a little bit some of the nonsense that he's trotted out there about AI innovation, about how they get players and stuff like that. And I think that they went down in a certain way with company, and obviously he goes to get the Bayern Munich job. But Scott Parker, I think, has done a brilliant job. I think going up, conceding 14 goals gives them an opportunity to perhaps do something different in the Premier League, which is don't give away goals and help the opposition, because it would appear to me that every team goes up, goes to the opposition and goes, how would you like us to play against you? Oh, play around at the back, and then that's what we'll do to help you. He won't do that. And Parker's also got a point to prove. You know, obviously he went up with Bournemouth, found himself falling foul of the owner, got himself smacked and sent to Coventry metaphorically, went to over. So I think that Burnley might have a chance. Leeds, well, the 49ers can't be wanting Leeds United in the Championship in terms of the cost implications of buying it and in terms of the previous owner. But they want to be in the Premier League. This is an American ownership
Premier
model.
League.
Sorry, I thought you did say to me Birmingham City. Sorry, you actually said Burnley.
Sorry, I was going to let that one slide. No, it's okay.
No, I knew. I just wanted to get that.
Well, I thought you might have been taking umbrage to the claret and blue that the Burnley play.
I thought there was a little dig at Burnley there from yourself. I didn't know.
No, absolutely not at all. And I happen to agree with Simon as well too.
I think they all have. I think they all have a chance. I think there's a few teams in there that are going to. I think Wolves might wobble again. I know that they'll turn around.
Wobble,
maybe Keith Andrews will find out the realities, he might say, of what football management is like rather than football punditry. But
it's long running saga. Forget about it, man.
But you know,
even I'm fed up with it.
But I think Leeds and Burnley have a chance, and I think it depends what business Sunderland do. I want to see this manager, because I think you've got to give a lot of credit to the Sunderland owner that I've at times said, young kid on his dad's money. I think that's not true. I think the kid's very bright. I think he knows what he wants. I'm surprised he hasn't actually tried to sell Sunderland, because I think he's achieved the outcomes that he probably wanted for Sunderland. But the appointment of the manager was a very left field that nobody would have picked and worked.
I agree with
that.
And it's worked very, very well. And so far doing good business in the transfer window as well. All right, World Players Union, FIFPro, says players fear consequences of speaking out. Top footballers feel unable to speak out despite FIFA ignoring their basic needs. Alex Felix, the General Secretary of FIFPro, which represents 66,000 men and women's players around the world, believes they're worried about potential backlash from clubs and governing bodies. Are FIFPro correct that players do fear consequences of speaking out? Players have spoken out in the last couple of seasons about the amount of games they play, and they have been ridiculed.
What would they be fearful of?
The backlash from fans, the backlash from people in the media, and everyone. The one thing that everyone says immediately is, "Well, you earn that much money." That's the one thing that screamed at players.
Yeah, and I think you've mentioned that, Simon, as well. To a time, first of all, you're talking about too many games, are you? That's
what players are speaking out about.
Strangely enough, I think they do play too many games, but I wouldn't want to go on a soapbox and shout it out from the rooftops, because then I find out that, you know, if you're talking about pre-season games now, teams didn't Arsenal play Newcastle United there just the other day?
Yeah.
In where was it? Is it
Singapore?
In Singapore. So it kind of knocks my argument a little bit by saying about the players needing the rest. I thought the competition in America, I thought I wasn't sure about it at all. Eventually, you mean Chelsea make
towards the end? Didn't
towards the end, as I say, Chelsea make £100 million. So who's complaining about that? But overall, I think generally speaking, the players, big international players who would be playing, if they weren't playing in that tournament, would be playing summer games at international
But it
level.
doesn't alter the parameters of what the question was actually about, which was about the number of games that they're playing and how the clubs are forcing it upon them. And it's very reductive to suggest that the only conversation is about the finances. The reasons why it's about the finances is because the players have made it all about the finances.
Because they want more money, they're playing more games.
Right now, if they wanted, I was quite happy for Rodri to rock in and say that he wants to play less games. I'm quite happy for Rodri to go in to see his owner and say, I want to sign for Man City, but only play 50 games a season, and see how that works out for him. Because what he won't want to do is have any compromises in his contract about how much he gets paid. Accepting the reality. Now, also, I'm quite happy to have a conversation with anybody about the notion they're playing too many games and how we can fix things and how we can put forward a white paper which says, okay, we want all the money. We managers, we owners, we want all the money out of the game, and we accept that we're getting a huge benefit that we never ever thought we'd get in our lives. We can't believe we've got it now. We used to, we want more. But we also acknowledge the fact that in order to get this money, someone's got to give it to us. So it's either some silly sod owner that doesn't care much about his money, or it's the broadcasters and competition. So what we want to do then is we want to sit with you guys and actually put forward a white paper of how we think football can be structured to achieve the outcome for everybody, which is you generating the income to pay us and us getting the benefit of it. And the conversation will go dry there, because what people want to do in football is tell you what they haven't got or what they don't want, rather than what they can do and what the solutions are, which is why I get fed up with Keown's nonsense, because he doesn't come with a solution, he just comes with a complaint. If you want to tell me how we fix it, and it actually is achievable without some ridiculous la-la land mentality of how you can play games at different times, then I'm very happy to have that. But no one ever does. They just want to tell you that I can't quite believe where I've landed. I can't quite believe that the average salary in the Premier League is £75,000 a week. And I'm in that space. And they've moved on from that now, going, actually, that's not really good enough for me. I think I should be having all of that benefit and none of the downside. And where FIFA Pro are,
but when the downside is injuries, which we're seeing loads more of because they're playing way too many games of football.
Ask for bigger playing squads then. Rotate players. You can't turn around and say that you've got more injuries when you won't rotate players because the best players don't want to be rotated. I don't want to be rotated. Which competition you don't want? I only want to sign for a Champions League football club. Oh, you do you? So then you're going to be prepared to play the 15, 16 games in the Champions League, the 38 games in... Do you not want to play for your country either? Oh, I do want to play for my country as well. Okay, you want to play for them. So now you're up to 60 games. Do you like the FA Cup? Oh, I like the FA Cup. Do you want to play in that then?
All right, okay, so you've thought it through. So what's the answer then?
Get on with it.
You what?
Just get on with it.
Get on with it, yeah.
I think the answer is bigger squads.
Yeah.
Bigger squads, and maybe look at rates.
Only the top teams in the Premier League can.
But they're the only ones that are complaining.
Well,
I'm only complaining.
But then the fans don't. As much as we say bigger squads, let's be realistic. The fans don't want to see the second string 11.
But who's complaining?
No, they don't.
It's the top 1%,
right.
Martin.
Well,
it's only the top 1%. So Wolves aren't complaining.
Yeah, because the top 1% generate all the money.
Sure, but by the benefit of association, all the other clubs get the benefit. If we were talking about if it's a football problem, the 67,000 members of FIFA Pro are supposedly look after. By the way, Amorim didn't pay any fees towards it. None of them, because if they had to pay real fees, real union fees, there'd be no members of the PFA. The only reason they've got their union, and because the union is funded by the broadcasters and the TV deals, because if these lot had to pay the fees commensurate with being in a union, they wouldn't be paying them.
Rotation suggests that what you have is that you have a second 11 every bit as good as your first 11, so you can rotate. That is not in a manager's thoughts. The manager has a number of players, and then he has the rest of the squad who might be able to be used. But if he was rotating every single week and changing a whole 11 into the next 11, I'll tell you what, he will be out of a job.
But I'm talking about rotation at key times when you can do it. When you've got a league, when you're playing in the League Cup and you're playing Doncaster. Right, when you're playing in the Champions League qualification,
those are. No, but what we know now, Chelsea rotated in the Conference League. They did in the Conference League, which they won. Well, I mean, okay.
But then they didn't rotate it when they went to the Club World Cup final.
Absolutely.
Or when the Club World Cup run. So it's not just the season; it's the season ending, and now it continues.
So we've now moved from a situation like when his day, right, where you had one substitute. Everything is now done.
That's true.
Everything is now done. You've now got 5 substitutes. You've got pitches that you can eat your dinner off. Right? You've got medical resources, physical conditioning coaches, dietitians, everything to be able to give yourself an environment. Right. So you've got to take the rough with the smooth, and that's the challenge. Is you can't. And I don't want it to be as binary as this. You cannot take all the benefits, and not have some of the disadvantages.
But Simon, what we're seeing is a season ending. and now the season doesn't end because all of a sudden these players aren't getting the 6 or 7 weeks rest, which is important. They're carrying on. I did the Club World Cup. These players are carrying on.
I think they play too many games, but Simon does have the point, is that you can't have the cake and eat it as well. You can't have everything going in your direction.
But would the product not diminish if these players are playing to? So yes, you get Salah, but do you get Salah, the product you came to tune in to watch?
And that is a very fine point. It's a very fine point indeed. Do you have it? If they are getting no rest, I made this point months and months ago here. If the top players are not getting any rest during the course of the close season, very, very close, in time it will catch up with them. There's no question about that there. It will catch up. It might not catch up in August, September and October of the following season. It will catch up with them.
How do you square the circle though when you talk about representing, I mean, FIFA Pro are talking about 67,000 members, right? But we're only talking about less than 1% of those complaining. So how do you change an industry to represent 1% when the 99% are all right, Jack? They're fine. They're not playing the 65. I mean, again, I go to the point, and I take it from people like Souness and Danny Murphy, more current Danny, but Souness played at a time when 42 games in Division 1 on paddy fields. He would know because he played in that era. Champions League, internationals. Souness was playing 65 games a season, getting kicked up the backside by Norman Hunter.
No. Souness was doing the kicking. So
well, you say he wasn't.
Yeah. He was doing.
But he was still getting kicked as well.
Yeah, very occasionally. But mostly, we all played a lot of the games in that time, and the squads were short.
When you were playing a lot of games?
No, I never complained. I wanted to play. I wanted to play every single week.
Then?
Why are they complaining?
Because they're indulged.
They're playing 80 games a season. That's why they're complaining. 80 games a season.
Very few exceptions are.
Okay, it's true.
There are very few exceptions that are playing 80 games a season. But I'm not arguing with the principle of it. But there isn't a solution. The solution is you cannot believe how much reward you're getting from the game. Perhaps you just got to get on with it.
Maybe so. All right, listen to Oladipo, Jordan and O'Neill on talkSPORT with Salco Builders Warehouse. It's where the trade go. Up next, we're going to be discussing the latest doping case in boxing. This one around Galao fire. We'll tell you a bit more when we come back. Good afternoon, just gone 12:20. Ade Oladipo in for Jim White alongside Simon Jordan and Martin O'Neill. All right, we're going to switch gears now and talk some boxing. And this isn't a very comfortable conversation, but we're going to have it. Gloria Fai had a fight against Francisco Rodriguez a couple of months back now. Francisco Rodriguez, in the post-fight drug test, tested positive for heptiminol after the fight, which is classified as a cardiac stimulant. I would call it a performance-enhancing drug. They have ruled that Rodriguez accidentally ingested the banned substance, as he previously reported that the use of an over-the-counter energy booster, which he said he was unaware included it. The WBC have made a request to the British Boxing Board of Control to officially recognise their decision to rule the fight as a no contest and place Rodriguez Jr. under a 12-month probation period with random testing. That's the situation as it stands at the moment. What this does for Gloria Fai, well, nothing, to be honest with you. Gloria Fai has taken the beating. The fight will be turned into a no contest, but the punishment's already been done. And Gloria Fai took the punishment.
Yeah.
And I almost feel like this is another case of, I think, boxing getting it wrong, but what can we do?
Well, what could boxing have done in this instance? What can it do? I mean, the WBC, from my mind, have a bunch of questions to answer left, right and centre about who they instate to make fights, how they dealt with the Conor Benn situation by providing solutions to questions that he didn't advance, i.e. they gave him a dietary solution to his problem. And in this instance, the fighter has been consequenced. It goes down to the idea of how much strict liability exists and how much the consequence should be.
Yeah.
It goes down to the testing regimes. You constantly debate with people about the testing regimes. It can't be beyond the wit of man to make tests come back quicker and faster.
I can't understand it.
And beyond the reality of actually getting people in the ring, dealing with it before they've got in the ring.
Yeah.
So they actually are not putting someone to deal with events after the event. Then, of course, there's the consequences of people being banned and not being banned, or the ramifications of that and the decisions that are made. The lack of professionalism that the boxing world seems to exhibit on a subject matter that should be so close to its heart. Because it's one thing, footballers, rugby players getting CTE, getting dementia, getting challenges in their later life as a result of heading footballs. It's another thing entirely. That doesn't mean it's not valuable, and that doesn't mean it's not a tragedy in its own. But boxers get hit in the face for a living. Yeah. What is boxing waiting? For somebody to fail a drug test and kill somebody in a ring, and then finding themselves in a situation beyond all consideration, because boxing seems to skate below the radar of public and critical attention about what's happening to athletes as a result of dementia and the CTE I was referring to. That was my point. But you would think it was the main industry that people were going, what about their industry?
Because
it doesn't.
You get punched in the head.
So now you've got a situation where they're not fit for purpose in terms of their drug testing regimes, they're not fit for purpose in terms of their consequences, and eventually it can't not happen. Something tragic is going to happen, and then someone's going to find themselves in a very difficult position, a Michael Watson situation, a Gerald McClellan situation, a Johnny Owen situation, and the fighter's going to fail a drugs test, and then boxing is going to be in uproar. What's it going to do then to kill the claims or to suppress the claims of this brutal sport being banned?
So how quickly can they turn the drug tests around?
Well, they argue that the testing is more complex and it takes a period of time. And I think the main focus is the expenditure around the tests.
It costs
a lot of money.
Excuse my ignorance in this here, but if you are taking steroids, is that over a period of time, or is it something that you can ingest or
this is the
take
point.
quickly?
They will say they can cycle it out of you, and there's experts in this field that have constantly been proven and put their head above the parapet, and people that you wouldn't want around you talking about cycles of how you can put a particular athlete on a particular substance and then know exactly when it's going to be cycled out of his system.
Right.
And the only thing that catches them is random tests and people being not voluntary tests like the clean boxing campaign at WBC, but ultimately tests that are spot tests.
Right.
But it becomes then about when they're done, and we're seeing so many times. We saw with due respect to Amir Khan. Amir Khan fails a drug test and nobody finds out about it until a year later. And these things have to be dealt with clearer and more clinically. And it does, and it is it a case of it can't be because the testing regime is more complicated, because you're not just testing for something specific, you're testing for a broad range. And it might be, if you have a PSA test to see if you've got cancer, they test for a PSA. But if you're testing for a multiple of drugs,
it is difficult.
It's more complex than that.
But they do need to, the punishment is weak, Martin. And so there's no fear from these boxers of taking performance enhancing drugs, because ultimately you get a slap on the wrist, you can get a 6-month ban, a 12-month ban. As Simon would tell you, these fighters only fight once a year, 2 times a year. So if you get a year ban, you was only going to have one fight in that period anyway. So the ramifications aren't enough. You've almost got to do what athletics does, which is take a 6-year ban. Where that's it, your career's done, basically. You get banned for 6 years, you're done. Or I think withhold the fighters' purses.
Absolutely.
There's nothing more a fighter cares about than money.
But I'm
So
assuming
if you hold the purses until after the drug test, so if you pass your drug test, fine. Pay him, pay her. If you don't, we're holding that money back. And I feel like fighters, if they know that they're going to get hit in the pocket, I think would stop taking these drugs.
And that's Derek Chisor's argument as well, isn't it? He makes that point very clearly, and he thinks they'll show one strike and you're out, you should get banned for life. But there's also an industry that seems to not vilify. With due respect, we've got the former heavyweight champion of the world that failed drugs tests in Tyson Fury. We've got arguably the pound-for-pound greatest fighter of all time in Canelo Alvarez that failed drugs tests, and they've sailed off into the sunset. Now, there's part of a culture that says everyone's entitled to redemption. There's another part of it is how serious do you want to be? How serious do you want to be? If you fail a drugs test inside a combat sport where mortal jeopardy is at risk, then you're out.
Yeah.
You're out.
You're out.
You opened up this conversation by saying it's all too common, the whole drugs in boxing. And I kind of agree with you. It just seems to be a weekly affair. Simon, is there something then that they think about, well, listen,
get the trainers as well, because the argument is also that there is no way a fighter takes performance enhancing drugs without the camp knowing them. So then reach further in and see how lively people want to get about diligence.
Yeah, I think you do need to go to fighters' camps now.
Go after the trainers and ban them as well.
I think I don't think it's just a fighter. I think there's a whole team surrounding them. My concern, we'll end on this one. We always forget about the fighter that's taken the beating.
Indeed.
And I think Galal Yafai, who is an Olympic gold medalist, by the way, Martin, who was unbeaten going into this fight. Obviously, he still will remain unbeaten because this fight will be null and void. He took a bit of a shellacking.
Yes.
And it's how he recovers from that. I mean, does he get any payoff? All that happens to him now is he hears that the guy's got a no contest against his name. That's nothing for Galal.
Yeah.
And that upsets me. Well, I think boxing has a big problem. And they're asking, which is even more crazy, for him to fight the guy again. So the WBC have ordered that he have a fight with the same guy that gave him that beating, that had performance-enhancing drugs in his system. Honestly, I think it's crazy, but boxing's the wild, wild west. Honestly, it really is, and it needs a world governing body for things such as this. So but we'll see what happens. It would have been nice to speak to Galal, but we couldn't. We'll try and get him on during the week. All right, up next, we're going to be discussing the latest surrounding the mighty Manchester United, and is Ruben Amorim being a little bit too honest?
England are going to kick off their Euro celebrations back in the UK with a reception at Downing Street after beating Spain in a nail-biting penalty shootout. Chloe Kelly, the hero for the Lionesses in 2022, reprised her role for the big moments and buried the decisive penalty to seal the 3-1 result. talkSPORT's Adrian Durham tells us, although it was a chaotic route to victory, this squad should never be overlooked.
I mean, when you look back, could you say they were the best team? Well, they've won the tournament, and that's all that matters.
Yep.
There might have been other teams played better. This England side had a depth in the squad, a character and a spirit that none of the others could match, and it's seen them through to victory in the end.
The Lionesses are then set for an open-top bus parade celebration in central London tomorrow, followed by a ceremony outside Buckingham Palace. Meanwhile, Lucy Bronze revealed after the game that she actually played the entire tournament with a fractured tibia. Just as well, her government middle name is Tough. Yep, Lucy Tough Bronze. Serena Viegman had nothing but praise for her resilience.
Lucy Bronze is just, her mentality is like, I think the whole team has an incredible mentality, but she has a crazy mentality. It's unbelievable.
And Luke Littler becomes the youngest ever Triple Crown winner after taking the World Match Play title. For more on these stories, head to talksport.com.
$10K for Coldplay.
Yeah, Coldplay back at Wembley this summer. We've got a huge VIP prize up for grabs for one lucky listener. We're giving you the chance to win 6 tickets in a private box for you and your mates. August 22nd, full hospitality as well. Plus, we're chucking in 10 grand spending money, completely tax-free. Here's how to enter. Remember, it's 18 plus, UK excluding Northern Ireland. For a chance to win, just simply text the word WIN to 8338. That's WIN to 8338 by the 4th of August, 11 p.m. and you're in the draw. Text costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message. You must have the bills payer's permission, or you can post your name and number to Coldplay Competition, PO Box 3190, Colchester CO2 8GP, to arrive by 5 p.m. on the 7th of August. This is a TalkSport Limited promotion run on TalkSport Talk and Virgin Radio UK stations. Full terms and conditions at talksport.com. Right, we said that we'll keep you up to date with what's going on with Morecambe. Remember, there was a deadline set by the National League for midday. No news from Morecambe or the National League as yet. Let's hope no news is good news. We'll update you as soon as we have some more information. All right, Manchester United are in America playing football. Played against West Ham. Ruben Amorim still downplaying what the expectations will be this season. Let's hear from the Manchester United manager.
I think we need to remind ourselves how special it is to be in Manchester United. That is my feeling. Is the best club in the world. It should be for everyone that is on the pitch with our club. So I really like that feeling, and I really like to be in the group that is healthy. And we are going to suffer. We have problems, but that feeling of bonding from everybody, from the staff, from the players, with the technical staff is really important. I think it can help us to win some games that we are not performing so well, but something happened because the spirit is positive.
What he did say as well in that piece, he said that United will suffer again this season. If I'm a United fan, I mean, I guess you can sort of temper expectations, but you don't want to hear that.
Well, I don't think he said suffer again this season completely. I think he said suffer, and I think he meant just in aspects of games and certain moments of matches. If he's continuing to say suffer this season again, that wouldn't be sending out a fantastic message. You know, they bought a couple of players that, listen, they need wholesale changes in the team, I must admit. But overall, I'm not so sure that that's what he said. Maybe I've got that wrong. Yeah. But my interpretation of listening to that little bit was, there'll be moments.
There'll be some games where we struggle, which is honest.
And he thinks that the team that they have around them now can, in instances, overcome that. You know, matches that I think. My interpretation is that he thinks he can win some games this season that last season they couldn't do. I might have got that totally wrong.
I think that's absolutely right. I think he's also attacking the culture of people that have played for the football club, forgetting who they've played for, because they are playing for arguably the biggest team in world football, or once upon a time was. I do find myself having difficulty with certain dialect that creeps into the common speak in football, which is suffer. Suffer is going to a food bank, having no money. Suffering in a football match is trying to overcome adversity. So it seems to have crept into the dialogue these days. I think what he's saying is absolutely right. And because he's saying it, and because he's spent the last 7 months seemingly want to saying things that I think probably are not the most helpful about trying to rebuild Man United. That the moment he says it again, albeit contextually with nuance, pick it up. It's going to be picked up. I took the fact that Man United are building a culture, which means when they do have difficulties in games, they're more likely to win these games than they would have done a year ago. And I think there's more positive in that than people are allowing the oxygen around what he's saying to be interpreted properly.
Martin, I think last season surprised everyone. No one would have expected United, especially the United that we all grew up watching, to be anywhere near where they were last season. What can they expect? And I say they as United fans this season. Like, is top 10 a thumbs up for how bad last season was?
I suppose it would be, really. But the top 10, even you've had all of close season to digest it. You buy a couple of players and you think that that'll give you a little bit going forward anyway. In terms of Cunha, who's definitely a quality player. You definitely need other people in the side. Will Manchester United, with their current team at this minute, will they be in the top 4? I think that would be a major surprise to me. I think there would have to be a bigger overhaul than there's taking place at this minute. That's my view. They might get surprising. Is that good enough for Manchester United? The Manchester, not really.
Can that centre forward do anything, Martin?
Which one?
Hoyland.
I must admit, he's been a major disappointment. You're prepared because he was a bit young, price tag, all of those particular things. You thought, well, listen, give him a little bit of time, but really, whether it's confidence or whether it's lack of confidence, it's he looks.
Is he hiding now? Is he looking like he wants to be in the position?
He looks really ordinary. Really ordinary, and he will have to do a massive improvement if he is going to lead Manchester United to a decent position.
Yeah, there's a lot of players that potentially want to leave the club as well. Ruben Amorim spoke after the game against West Ham and said he won't sell unwanted players for cheap.
There are different reasons for the players. Some players have to find a new place to have more space in the team. Other players clearly show that they want a new challenge and they want new teams. So we are just allowing to these players to have time to think and to decide. If you reach a point that they have to join the team, they will join the team because they are our players. And I know for a fact that Omar and Jason and the club have a number for these players. If they don't reach that players, they will be Manchester United players. No doubts about that.
How do you integrate players back into the club that clearly don't want to be at the club? I mean, you would have experienced something maybe similar to this. I mean, Garnacho doesn't want to be there. I think that's clear. Jadon Sancho doesn't want to be there. You're not going to get a return on investment on Jadon Sancho.
Yeah.
So the number that he said they want, they're just not going to get that for Jadon.
Yeah, they won't. And also, I think if you are, I've learned this from experience, I think if you say that a player is not going to play for you anymore, you want to make sure that he's out the door the following morning. You can't have him hanging around then if that's the case, because you're backtracking then. Yeah. And I think that some of those players will have really irritated him. There's no question about it. Absolutely. And you think to yourself, well, listen, the opportunity to get rid of them, will do so. But at the end of it all, you might have to call them back in again at some stage. So please, whatever you do, but my advice to any young manager coming into the game is don't tell Don't say to the player he'll never play again unless he's out the door the following morning.
So I mean, they can get. You've got to qualify what you're talking about return on investment. Are you talking about a profit on the transaction? Are you talking about a balance sheet exercise? Or are you talking about cash? Because at this moment in time, they paid 73 million quid for Jadon Sancho 4 years ago. Yeah. They put him on a 5-year contract. He's depreciating at £14 million season. He's sitting on their balance sheet at 14 million quid. If they sell him for 20 million quid, they can book a £6 million profit. So they can achieve balance sheet outcomes. Now, whether they want their cash back, that's an interesting way of looking at it. So I just looked at it at the income.
That's why I like him on it.
I looked at the money they bought for him. That's what
I'm the same. I'm exactly the same. And strangely enough, as a manager, I'd been told by owners, that's what you paid for them. That's what we want to get back again.
You will do. But when you're in a situation like when we're talking about the scale of Man United, obviously we know.
I wish I had invented that word amortization or something that gets you away by.
It's been around for a time.
I know it has.
Both ways as well.
I know it has.
But also,
you would know with all the managers you had.
I did, indeed, yes.
Brilliant.
I helped them all on their way.
Yeah.
One way or another.
Some of your interim managers stayed longer than the managers you had.
You like working for me, don't worry about it. But the notion that Sancho, because obviously we've got the situation when we know Man United was nearly running out of money, so of course they want to try and maximise the money they got, because Jim Ratcliffe told us that Man United were going to run out of money despite the balance sheet, their cash reserves and their New York Stock Exchange position being completely different to what Jim Ratcliffe told us. So you might be right, they might need to get the returns on these situations. But I think Amorim spoke well. I think he speaks sensibly in that situation, and because he's made a rod for his back, he knows and I know that once someone forms an opinion of you, the narrative gets seeded. It's like the old Mark Twain expression, a lie's halfway around the world while the truth's still getting his boots on, right? And the fact of the matter is that you've got a situation where people now think that everything Ruben Amorim says is negative, when actually what he's saying is common sense. The club's got a certain price, the players need to understand they're playing for Man United, and they will play for Man United the way we want them to. And I think there's nothing controversial about what he's saying. But what he can't say and what he won't say is we're going to be a well-beating team next year, because they're not going to do a 180-degree turn, are they?
Yeah. He's a good manager. Well, at least his previous job told us he's a good manager. I almost watched him.
A moment ago, you were questioning the credentials of Victor Goyas kicking footballs around in Portugal. I think kicking footballs is different.
I'm with Jordan in this one. Maybe honestly, you're right. Yeah, no. This is my first time I've met you, and I was liking you right up until the last 10 minutes.
In terms of the job, is it too big for him?
The job?
Yeah. In terms of where, like you just said, Man United need a complete overhaul.
Yeah.
And as much as that's true, I don't think fans are going to accept the time it takes for them to get back to where they need to get back to.
No, that's right.
Overhaul.
No, listen, only time will tell whether he can improve Manchester United. He should be able to do it. I think he is a good man.
Did we see anything last season?
Pardon?
Did we see anything last season?
No, we didn't see a great deal. My only point about it is this. If you have come into the football club, and you've definitely got principles, we've always said this about the old principles thing, but if you have a way of playing and you're pushing players into a type of game because that's the positions that you want them to play in, even though they might feel uncomfortable in that there, I think you've got to look at it again and say, well, listen here, I mean, that's not really working, and results would suggest that wasn't really working. Therefore, I have to backtrack it. I either wait until I get the players in round the world that can fit into the way that I want them to play, or you actually, you feel as if, I can change a little bit. Some players that I have at the football club not really getting into what I want them to do. Maybe I just get them back into.
And your brethren, because the idea that you get wedded to an ideology, what you're talking about is the pragmatic solution to a conundrum which enables you to manage the situation in the short term and to get what you want in the longer term.
Absolutely.
Right? But does that mean that managers now are so wedded to ideologies that they've lost that ability to be pragmatic?
That would concern me. Yeah. It absolutely would concern me. No, I get back to the point, there's nothing wrong with having a method of play that you believe that's the case.
There's a time frame as to when it doesn't work. And
that's right. Results dictate that. Absolutely. And if you continue to lose matches, then you've got to think about it. You've got to actually put yourself in a dark room and think to yourself, well, this isn't actually working. Maybe I'll transfer my thoughts.
Or just follow Vincent Kompany's logic, which is take a team up, get them relegated and get one of the biggest jobs in football.
Yeah. No comment from everyone. Final one on Amorim. He spoke about young Kobe Mainoo, who burst onto the scene and was fantastic. Got into the England squad. All of a sudden, he said he has to quicken his tempo in order to be a starter. What does that mean? Managerial spiel. What does that mean? Quicken his tempo.
Move the ball faster.
I think that's probably what it is. Yes, I wouldn't give up on him. Believe it or not, if I'm a manager stepping in here, I wouldn't give up on him at all, because he is. I think he's a proper player. It looks, because he's now not getting a regular spot, and certainly in terms of starting, as if he has regressed a little bit in that
Does
sense.
He know his job? Because Silas was always saying to me, he doesn't know his job. He doesn't know.
Kobe doesn't know his job.
He doesn't know his job.
Well, interestingly. No, that also, listen, I'm taking his side here in this here. He has had a number of managers at this minute who might be telling him to do certain things, and that might be going, not necessarily against what he does, because football shouldn't be that complicated at the end of. But if you've got to step in, just let's say Amorim's telling him to do something that Ten Hag almost completely the opposite. I think you've got to get a young age. I would not give up on it. He's got talent. There's no question about it. If that's the case, and Amorim's working with him on a day-to-day basis, if quickening the tempo was up, no short words, well, do it. Do it. Listen, if this is going to get me into the team, and this is what the manager is saying to me, I'm going to do that.
Yes or no? Do Man United make top 8 next season?
Top 8? Yeah. Or went from top 10 now to top 8? Top 8. Well, yeah, top 8. They should do it, because there's quite a number of average teams playing in the Premier League. Yeah, I'll go top 8.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, all right. You're listening to Oladipo Jordan and O'Neill on talkSPORT with Selco Builders Warehouse. Check out this month's real deals at selcobw.com. Up next, we're going to be discussing David Moyes' frustrations with Everton's transfer window, but we understand he's about to get a whole lot happier. Final section here. I can't believe how quick it's gone. Oladipo and Jordan alongside Martin O'Neill as well. All right, let's talk David. Why do I keep calling him David Moyes? I'm so used to David Silva and David Moyes, who's been not too happy with Everton's pre-season performances. I struggle to know where Everton are going to be this season because of the new stadium. And I almost felt like
I'm optimistic for them.
I felt like Goodison Park was like a fortress for them, though. When you're going to Goodison Park, you know you're going to struggle. This new stadium...
Was it a fortress for them? I mean, they were languishing around the bottom of the league for the last 2 or 3 seasons.
All their points to stay up.
Sean navigated them away from it because I think Frank might have taken them down. And then David came in and rekindled the urgency. It's ironic. I mean, I'm being spirited if he's unhappy about the transfer dealings, because doesn't he go by the moniker of Dithering Dave? Doesn't make decisions. That's mean spirited. I'm sure they're going to have a raft of opportunities. I'm optimistic for them. I think Friedkin will be better than Mashiri.
Yeah.
I think they'll make sensible decisions, and they made one by bringing David back. And I think that they will, Calvert-Lewin may be going out the door, but I think they will replace him. They will replace him and refresh, and the whole stadium. Because I remember one of my mates, George Downing, who was going to buy Everton at one point, and it was very facilitatory in lending them a lot of money. He was so optimistic about one of the things that he felt that the stadium was going to provide such solutions because it enabled them to really monetize themselves better, which will then enable them to invest in the team more.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much you can do at a stadium that capacity. I think we're seeing it with some of the stadiums around the country.
Oh, yeah.
It's concerts, it's NFL, it's everything. Let's hear from...
you were just going to say, so how's it going to get much better? You were going to tell me, is he going to get some players in?
Oh, it's coming. There you go, Martin. All right, let's hear from David Moyes first, though, speaking after that 3-0 defeat to Bournemouth in America. This is what he had to say with issues about his current squad.
We're sort of picking up a little bit of where at the end now where there was a lot of people coming out of contract and a lot of loan players we had in because of the financial situation, so we're having to sort of find a way now. Look, we're trying really, really hard behind the scenes to get things done, and as you can see, we're going to need it because but ultimately today, we've got no centre halves in the team to play differently, so we're really struggling. And even Big Jake has played most of the time for me as a right back, so we've been really struggling today.
Yeah, it's been a difficult pre-season, and I said, look, it does get better for Everton. I mean, not much better. They have agreed an £8 million deal with Bayern Munich for 19-year-old left-back Adam Anzu, who's going to join the tour of the US after completing a medical. They need a lot more than Adam Anzu. This is the team that they've beaten Port Vale, they drew with Accrington and lost to Blackburn, now in Bournemouth. It's not a great pre-season.
I wouldn't worry too much with the pre-season results. What I would worry about is that if he's got injuries to the two centre halves,
Tarkowski and
they are not. I don't know how long they might be out for, but that would be a problem. And you wouldn't have thought, really. I thought you were just going to come in here with the news that they've got a raft of signings.
I mean, Everton fans would probably be excited about that.
An £8 million signing for a 19-year-old, not going to change the face of the country.
Yeah, it must be doing. I mean, for some time they've been under governance, what I called special measures. When the police get put into situations where they have to manage their finances, they call it special measures. And Everton have been under that guidance from the Premier League because they've had to sell to buy, and every time they sell, it's got to be more from what they buy. I think they're out of that PSR challenge now, so I'm expecting Friedkin to put a bit more money in the club. I think one of the whirlwinds has been they kept Braithwaite. I mean, let's not lose sight of that because everyone was assuming that was a done deal. He was going somewhere else. I would assume that they can't put themselves in the way of a new stadium and all the optimism without giving Moyes some tools.
I agree.
But isn't that almost the counterbalance? When you do spend so much on a new stadium, managers have less to spend because all the money has gone on a new stadium.
Well, you have to. Simon would know better than anyone here, really, about if you are stepping into a new stadium. The idea is that there's going to be renewed enthusiasm, a reinvestment, and you want some really decent players to be playing in that stadium.
Yeah, they will have. It depends how it's funded, and ultimately they'll forget they're paying $500 million for this stadium, not quite the $1 billion that Spurs spent for theirs, and the $2 billion that Man United are forecasting for theirs. But the additional revenue that they get from it, alongside the different commercial opportunities, you would have felt would be commercially beneficial in the short term as well as the long. Otherwise, what's the purpose of doing it? It's no good this club having the best stadium in the Championship because they won't. Yeah. But and neither will Friedkin. I mean, I know people question. I think he's been pretty good for Roma. I think ostensibly Friedkin's been pretty good for Roma, and I think he'll be all right for Everton. But they, as you rightly say, an £8 million signing for a kid from Bayern Munich is not going to give David.
Yeah, I don't think fans are going to get too excited about that.
And David will have some leverage. Come on, he wouldn't have gone back to Everton if he didn't have the currency to be able to demand certain things.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, talking about managers, obviously there's been a manager merry-go-round. Thomas Frank at Spurs is a big one, isn't it? 9 years at Brentford. Yeah, and was part of the furniture. He's now gone to Spurs again. Pre-season not great for him either, if I'm honest with you. How do you think he gets on at Spurs?
I think he's a really fine manager, no question about it. I think he's deserved the chance as well too. He's done wonderfully well at Brentford, and this is an opportunity that he could not turn down, and he's gone for it. Will they need a bit of help in the transfer market? Yes, of course. Will they be disappointed? Naturally be disappointed with not being able to get Gibbs White. But overall, yeah, I think that I don't know what my expectation is of Tottenham at this minute. And regardless of how good a manager, you do need some tools in there. And they need that needs readdressing.
Yeah, they drew Wycombe and Luton Town.
Yeah, forget all about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, honestly,
doesn't mean anything.
It doesn't mean a thing. There'll be. Don't get me wrong. There will be people at a football club who will look negatively in those particular things.
Doesn't
Forget
that
about the
send
noise.
A manager sending a finger point to the chairman? I need to spend some money here. When those type of results.
Well,
happen.
if you want to use it that way, you can. But
did you ever use it that way?
Well, I'm not going to tell you. But yeah. Not really. I think once or twice that I did when we had the idea of 5 subs, and I think I put 3 in the bench.
There you go, right?
I put 3 in the bench and said, "This is it."
Pre-seasons would indicate a lot.
The answer is yes, they do use it.
They do, don't they? Yeah.
Oh,
I remember Coppell saying we played Crawley Town, who were a non-league side. And I just bought the football club, and I bought at that time about £5 million worth of players. In 2000, in Championship money, it was probably about 30 million in comparison today. So there was no short shrift, and we got beat 5-1 by Crawley. And I remember going, "What was that?" And Coppell was like, "Well, I told you the deficiencies were deep." I said, "We're a non-league side. Pack it in."
Yeah. I can imagine working with you.
That's it.
Yeah, it would have been fun, you two. It would have been fun, as it has been fun working with you two for the first time as well today. Thank you very, very much. We are back. Are you back with us as well tomorrow, Martin?
No, I'm not.
What?
No.
Just one and done. Is that it?
For heaven's sake!
Just one and done.
Oh, yeah,
Thank you. He tries to get up early as well.
Oh, yeah. Simon, it'll be me and you tomorrow then.
Indeed.
Thank you very much, Martin. Thank you very much as well. Thank you very much to everyone listening and watching on YouTube. Up next, it is Mr. Paul Hawksby and Andy Jacobs.